We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. My name is Rob H., and this week I'm here with...
Lee Overstreet, pinch hitting once again with my in-person friend Rob.
Yes, indeed. Oh, yes. What a tease. What a tease. I mentioned last week when I recorded with Tom. First of all, Tom and I were planning to record this week. We were always planning to record a day late, Tom and I. So that has been a known quantity for at least a week's time now. But Tom got pulled away. He was forced to book an appointment on the Wednesday, right during the time when he and I were planning to record. So I, on short notice, contacted our good friend Lee Overstreet. But, it works out swimmingly because, as I mentioned last week, Lee was actually in my neck of the woods in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, for a nice vacation with his wife. Yeah. And we're totally intending, we'll see how time goes on this whole thing, but we are absolutely intending to do a little slideshow, to have a little bit of fun, reminisce a little bit about Lee's trip to Vancouver, but we're going to definitely leave that to the end of this podcast episode so that folks who have absolutely no interest in that, it's not going to take up any time at the beginning, and I'll have the timestamps, you can skip right to it. So, yeah, I mean, I barely need to ask what Lee has been up to, because I kind of know what you were up to last week.
That's right, yeah. Last week it was visiting Vancouver and visiting you, and you were part of the reason we picked Vancouver. We had kind of a list, we wanted to go out of the country, but we were like, overseas right now feels weird. I don't know. So maybe not over an ocean, but another country. Hey, wait, I know a place where I know a guy.
Indeed. Right, yeah. So we will do a little AV Rant tease to entice you to stay to the very end and see all of the photo slideshow. It's the whole thing. Do you want to see somebody's vacation photo slideshow? But if you know us hosts, if you want to see a little bit more into the just regular lives of Rob and Lee, then that's going to be of interest. But also there are a couple of photos of my absolutely mysterious home theater. Yeah. There'll be some explaining to do when we get to those photos. But there's the tease. If you've been like, what the heck does Rob H's home theater actually look like, just to get a little taste, there are a couple of photos of that included in the.
I will tell you that it's worth staying for. Of course, Rob's great. We had a great time. It's worth staying for us talking about Vancouver. And yes, his home theater, I described it to someone else after being in it as a home theater that you climb into and wrap around yourself. Yep. Rather than enter a room, you just sort of climb into the theater and it's just there everywhere. I mean, I've said,
what I like about it is I can like escape into that room, when I go in there and I turn all the lights off and I immerse myself in a movie, it's like you can forget that the rest of the world is outside of that tiny little room. That's part of the fun of it.
You can, and as I'll mention later, it inspired me to turn the damn lights off in my living room for a change. I always just leave the lights on. It was like, this is not important. I don't really need to go.
You also with an OLED, so it's not like you're suffering for bad black levels or something if you turn the lights off.
I don't. It's just habit, It's like, I'm not really getting into this tonight. And then you just keep doing that and you get used to it and you never turn the lights off. But anyway, we can discuss that after a while.
So,
I recommend people staying for all that.
Putting aside Vancouver trips, which is obviously sort of the big news of the past week, was there anything else that you did want to catch people up on very quickly at the top of the podcast before we get going?
No, I just caught a cold on the way back. And then I feel like crap, and I might be a little snotty in this episode, but you know how it is when you think you've gotten over and you go, oh, thank goodness, that was a quick one. And then the next day you feel bad, and then you start feeling better and go, okay, now that's finally it. And then the next day something else hits a little more. It's been a little bit of that.
The bugs these days are hanging on for dear life, I tell you. They do not go away quickly anymore.
Right. I'm mostly past it, but I'm just warning everyone there may be a little sniffle, snotty. I might reach for a Kleenex.
Fair enough. I will also say that, as noticed, Tom is away this week. It was not the plan for this week, but he should be back next week. There's nothing like crazy going on. It was just schedules and booking appointments, and you know how it goes. There are limited times available for other people's schedules, and it just didn't work out quite perfectly this week. So there it is. So we're going to hop in, and I'm going to go ahead and call this my Sofabaton U3 review this week.
Ooh, okay, you had a chance to open it up. See, I've been feeling bad. I wanted to right when I got back, but I've been feeling rotten, and I wasn't going to do it justice. I didn't have the energy for it until maybe today. We'll see how it goes this week.
Right. And in addition to, I have opened it up, and I've programmed it and turned it on, all that stuff. The actual official software, the new Sofabaton version of their app that can program the U3 is fully available now, so I feel okay saying that I can call this a review. It's not, contingent on beta software and beta firmware and that type of thing. Now, this is a review sample. This was a pre-production model, so it is possible that there could be some very minor little differences between the retail unit that you would purchase and the review unit that I have in my hand. But yeah, I've alluded to it in previous episodes. I've talked a little bit about, overall, I am positive on this remote. I can certainly say that, especially for the price, $130 MSRP. There are discounts like already available on Sofabaton's own website, and it'll be coming through Amazon. So even $130 is probably not what you'll end up paying for the Sofabaton U3 at that price. I have very little reservation about saying go ahead and try this thing out. Now, no mysteries here. This is a device-based remote. It is part of the U series, not the X series from Sofabaton. The X series is activity-based, and the X1S and X2 that you can still purchase, those come with hubs, where it is actually the hub that sends out all of the commands, and I have an X2 right here. The wand that you hold in your hand communicates with the hub primarily, and that's where all of your Bluetooth and RF and IR commands come out of, although the X2 can send IR commands directly from the wand itself. The U3 is the remote itself. It does not have a hub, but it does control RF, Bluetooth, and IR, all of which are emitted directly from the remote itself. So I wanted to make a mention. First of all, when Lee and I first unboxed our U3 review units, we mentioned the slight little bubbling on the screen there. That is, as I suspected, just a second plastic layer. Okay. You just got to get your fingernail under there a little bit, and that if you see any bubbling, that is not actually a defect in the screen. It is a second plastic layer. So there's a very obvious protective plastic layer with a little tab that is very easy to pull off. Then there's a second protective plastic layer without a tab that is not so easy to pick off, but it does come up if you see any little bubbles.
That's good news, though, because that was literally the only visual criticism I had was a teensy bubble in some plastic. Otherwise, it is a really sharp looking product. Like, it looks nice.
Physically, otherwise, I really like the feel of this remote. It is definitely in weight lighter than the X2. The X2 feels metal and premium because it is. It also costs 3 times as much. The U3 is plastic. It is lighter, but it feels very pleasant in the hand.
It's very easy to slide back and forth in your hand. Like you can, you know how you tilt to get to the different buttons? I can operate it with one hand, even if I need to come down to the screen or whatever. Like, I can just sort of tilt it and let it slide through my hand. Yeah, it's
we
really
mentioned
nice.
that each of the buttons gives a satisfying tactile click. You can definitely tell when you have clicked it, but they are not noisy. I can put it right next to the mic. There's a tiny little pucka.
There's a subtle pucka.
But it is not making loud clicks whatsoever. The lights are all backlit. It's a little bit going to be hard to see on my screen, but the lights are all backlit. It's not going to work on my webcam. But yes, you've got full backlighting. And then, of course, you've got the screen at the top. So this is the big difference from the previous U-series models. This one has a full-color screen. You have up and down movement only using the scroll wheel, as we described before. But on the old U-series remotes, all you could do, the U1 and the U2, all you could do is move up and down with that scroll wheel. There was no clicking action on the scroll wheel itself. With the new U3, there is a clicking action, and that opens up what I mentioned last week. Now, I'm going to talk about one of the issues, but that opens up one of the things I talked about last week, which is you can program soft buttons. That is a huge change from the older U-series models that had no soft buttons. Now that you have this screen control, you do get soft buttons. So, I mean, that's great. Things like eject on your disc player, things like HDMI inputs on your TV. You could program those to say the number pad or something like that on the old U series remotes. But now, instead of having to take up something that only you, the programmer of the remote, would ever know exists, and nobody else picking it up in your family would have any idea that those commands are there, now it's there on the screen as soft buttons that you can command. But it is just a list, because all you have is up and down movement with the scroll wheel, and then you click. Now, you saw, I'm holding this away from me. I'm not looking at it. I wasn't moving it with my thumb as I normally would, but this scroll wheel is a little bit loose. That is if I have a complaint about this remote, that's what it is. And also, as I'm moving up and down, like, you can't just flick it and go up multiple, it's like, it's one at a time. You kind of got to be a little bit patient with this scroll wheel. That's what I would say. Be like generous to it, in that if you'd like take your time a little bit and you're careful with your clicks, it absolutely works. But if you're trying to move around quickly, if you're trying to scroll really quickly, if you're trying to click and scroll in quick succession, there's every possibility that when you go to click, it's gonna slide up to the other one, or slide down as I try to click, because that is definitely a physical possibility.
That's tough to get exactly right.
That's right.
Yeah. And it can make or break a device. The scroll wheel on the steering wheel in my car is just right for me. And if you get it a little bit wrong, it's supremely annoying, especially in a car. So I'm very happy about that. So this is a subtle little thing, and some people might like it better than others.
And like I say, this is a review pre-production model. It is possible that the friction on the retail unit is slightly different in feel from the one that I have. But as far as what I am able to tell you from the review unit that I have, if I had a complaint, that is it. It's not a surprise. I predicted it long ago. I said if there's going to be anything I don't like about this remote, it's going to be the scroll wheel. And sure enough, that is the case. Now, I did want to point out the thing that I love, going back on the screen. If I go into the device and then I want to go back and choose my other device, the back button for the screen itself is right there, right next to the scroll wheel. You don't have to do two-handed operation and move your thumb all the way up to the top like the X1S forced you to do.
Better.
I love that. Now, I also wanted to point out, if you scroll all the way to the top above your devices, there are settings right on the remote itself. So that's where you can change your screen brightness and how long the screen stays on, whether or not it uses the little accelerometer that's built in to turn the screen on when you lift it. And I will mention on that, is it touchy? This thing will light up at the faintest breeze going across it.
Right.
You set this down on your couch next to you and you move a little bit in your seat, that screen is going to light up. I guarantee
that's like the LG remote for my television.
Right.
It's sitting on an end table next to the couch, and sometimes the subwoofer will just bring up the arrow in the middle of the screen. You're like, wow.
It is a sensitive little guy. And then I will also say, so you can choose your screen timeout, how long it takes to time out on the screen and turn the lights back off. That includes the backlighting on the buttons. This I have noticed, and again, maybe this is unique to my review unit. I'm not totally sure, but I have found that if I'm doing programming on it, right? So I pull up the Sofabaton app on my phone. That's how you do all the programming on this remote. I make some changes. It automatically does all the uploading and updating of the remote when I do those changes. But then it will not just turn back off. The screen just won't go back off automatically after 10 seconds that I have it set right now. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of these settings, there is a reset. There's a reset command, and I have found that as long as I press reset after I've done some changes in the apps, then the timing out of the screen works perfectly fine. I haven't had any issues with that, but I have noticed that I make some changes in the app, and then the screen just stays on. It doesn't time out until I press reset. Maybe, that's something that I think future firmware will certainly fix. It could be unique to the review unit, but I just wanted to mention it because it could come up for other users, and they might be like, why doesn't the screen turn back off? And there's a simple reset on the remote itself, nothing more complicated than that.
That should be easy for them to address.
Exactly, yeah. But it's turn it off and turn it back on again to a reboot, and so far that's been working fine. Battery life. I have not recharged this thing since I opened it. And the little battery indicator says that it's maybe slightly below the halfway point at this point, but that's 3 weeks in, and I haven't recharged this thing a single time. And I've been doing a fair amount of programming and playing around with it, so I don't think the battery life is a problem. The screen brightness. This is as bright, if you're looking at my webcam, this is as bright as this LCD screen gets. I have the X2 as dim as the X2 gets right now. So this is the difference between this is as dim as it gets, and it's all overexposed on my webcam. This is as bright as the U3 gets, and it is considerably dimmer than the dimmest setting of the X2. So,
but in your theater, that's as bright as you ever want something. Now, otherwise, your eyes will just burn.
That's right. So I wouldn't say the screen on this is achingly bright. In a really brightly sunlit room, it might be possible that you could struggle to see a little bit, but I'll couch that by saying the viewing angles on this screen are not fantastic. This is an LCD screen, but that means if you are looking straight at it, it also doesn't wash out in sunlight coming at it from off angles. So I haven't found it a problem to use in... When sunlight is in my apartment, I wouldn't call it particularly bright, but full sunlight, I've tried using it, and I can still see the screen as long as the sun isn't, directly going on it on axis. But I thought that was worth mentioning.
Adequate for most home theater uses.
Oh, for home theater, absolutely.
Very adequate, yeah.
But I wanted to mention it because, some people want a really bright screen on their remote, and it simply doesn't have it, at least not now. Maybe a future firmware update will boost the output at the expense of battery life or something like that. But for the moment, that's
it. Flashlight mode so you can see your way out of the theater to the restroom.
That's right. So because it is predominantly IR, and the IR when you purchase it is coming from the remote itself, I literally pointed this thing backwards, straight up, straight down, off to the side, and in my setup, it has never missed a single IR command, no matter where I pointed this thing. Now, clearly, it is sending out the IR light signals, which are bouncing off the walls in my apartment, and that might not be the case in yours if you have very matte walls that don't reflect even IR or something like that. I can't guarantee it. Definitely, if you aim this directly at your device, it's not going to have any problem, but because you have, over here, this macro button, so instead of activities, you've got macros that you program manually yourself. You want a series of commands set out? It's very simple in the app. You go to the macro section, you program a macro, and all of your macros show up in this one list. I'll talk about how you can customize further, but that is the simple way to set things up as far as macros go. So because of that, you're going to be looking at the macro. You have to choose which macro you want to activate with the scroll wheel and then click the scroll wheel to make it happen. Because of that, you might be holding the remote up and down and looking at it, right? Because it's all on the screen and using the scroll wheel. So I've found that with the remote pointed straight up at my ceiling, it's never missed a command so far, but your mileage may vary, and for that reason, I want to mention that you can pair the U3 with Sofabaton's R1, the little ball infrared repeater.
Okay.
And so if you've got a setup, obviously if you've got components behind doors in a cabinet, you're going to want that R1 inside the cabinet because IR is not going to puncture through. It's not magic. But also if you're just concerned that, most of the time when I'm using this remote, I'm holding it straight up and down and looking at it, and all of my commands, maybe in your setup, are not being, registered on the devices. You get the R1, which is a $40 add-on, and you won't have that problem. So again, that's why I don't feel much reservation in recommending it. For not a ton of money, you can definitely make this thing work in your system. So I talked about how I had to reprogram my brain a little bit because I've been using activity-based remotes for so long that not being activity-based anymore means I have to rethink, okay, when I want to send multiple commands, I know the macros are there, that's how I'm going to do it. And as I mentioned last week, I am really appreciative of how snappy the communication between the app that you use to program everything and the remote itself is. It's faster than the communication between the X2 hub. So when you do updates on the app, it's like you're not waiting around. You're not watching a little thing spin in the app. It's like it updates very quickly, which is very, very nice. And you just have your devices. You add all your devices. Very simple to comprehend. What are the devices in my system? I'm going to add them one at a time, and there they are. They download to the remote. And then you have macros. And you're like, okay, every macro I could conceivably want to program, you can do it all in one place, and they're all going to show up in the macro list.
So you might create it in the app and send it to the device.
That's right. Yeah, everything is done in the app, and then it's automatically. You don't have to press a button to sync it or anything like that. You make a change in the app, it shows up on the remote.
I can't wait to play with that, because my angle on this is I'm going to see how many weird old devices from the 1900s
That's right.
I can make work on this. I've got all kinds of strange, like a DAT player and a laser disc player and just all kinds of weird things. I'm going to see what I can get working with it.
And as we mentioned, if it isn't in their database, if you have the original remote, the IR learning works fantastically on this. I did test it.
Yeah.
You point the top of this one. It's not the bottom of it like some of the old Harmonies. You point the IR sensor on this remote at the top, at the top of the other remote, and it's very simple in the app. You say, I want to learn a command, right? So you do create the device first, but then there's a command that wasn't in their database. You say, I want to learn a command inside of the Sofabaton app. You press the button once on the original remote with them about, 3 to 6 inches apart, so they're looking right at each other. And one click, every single one I tried to learn instantly, a single click. There was no holding down the button on the original remote or anything like that. Worked flawlessly with all the ones that I did, so I've been impressed with that.
I lived through the era of multiple clicks to get one remote ready to receive from the other remote, and careful, hold it an inch away. I've been through all that. I remember device-based. I can do it no problem.
So then the other major thing, you have each of your devices. You go into a device and you choose what you want to do. Oh, I'll also mention, if you are connected via Bluetooth, there's a lovely thing in this, which is that on the remote itself, in that settings cog up at the top, you can choose whether it remains connected to the Bluetooth devices that you paired, or if it sleeps that Bluetooth connection when the remote sleeps. I would highly recommend you leave it connected at all times, because having it sleep means you have to wake the remote and then push a button and then wait for it to repair and then do your command. You leave it connected all the time. I'm sure it's eating a little bit more battery life, but like I say, 3 weeks in and this thing is barely half down. So
that's pretty cool.
I don't think that's a problem. Also, it can remain connected to 3 Bluetooth devices at all times. So it is not one Bluetooth connection at a time for the remote itself. The remote can remain connected to 3 Bluetooth devices at all times. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty reasonable. That is the limit, but it's pretty reasonable. So that's something worth knowing. Now, you click into the device, and you have your soft buttons that show up on the screen. In the Sofabaton remote, you can reprogram every single button, every single hard button on here to be any IR command from any device. Yeah. So that's how you get your volume punch through. That's how you have your HDMI inputs are still accessible on any device that you go into. You have to program that manually, but you can do it. But every single button can also have a command for a short press and a long press. So you have double the number of buttons on this remote, because you can make a long press a separate thing. And every single button, both short press and long press, can also be a macro if you want it to be. So this is where you can kind of create activities, because, hey, there's a power button here, right? The power button for my Blu-ray player doesn't have to only turn my Blu-ray player on and off. It can be a macro that also turns on my AV receiver and my TV every time I turn on my Blu-ray player, right?
So I think I can imitate the activities from my little non-screen Harmony. I think I'll be able to do that. I can't wait to see if I can create an activity to use a 46-year-old laser disc player. Right. That's going to be a blast.
So, yeah, I mean, technically it won't be an activity, but it will be a macro. And here's the other fun thing. In the macros section, when you're programming all of those, at the end of you've put in all the macros, and another nice thing is you can choose a little icon so that you can have a little background color. Like I put my Apple TV in there. You can choose what the background color is and a little icon so that shows up nicely on the screen. But you can say, after I've pressed the macro, it will ask you which device do you want it to default to controlling immediately after, so that it doesn't just dump you back out to the device screen and now you have to choose which device. I've pressed the macro and I've said, okay, if I press the Apple TV macro, well then I want to control the Apple TV device immediately after pressing that macro, no matter what I was controlling before. And you have that programmability inside of the app. So I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere here.
The volume up and down can be set to always, no matter what, be controlling the receiver.
That's right.
This is going to be a blast. I can't wait to see what I can do.
So I will say, you're kind of only limited by your creativity a little bit here. And the one like a limitation is that all of the macros just show up in that macro list. But like I say, each individual device, you can make any of the buttons a macro.
Can I create and upload my own icon?
No.
Oh,
they just have a
come on,
selection.
Sofabaton, that would be really cool. Let me make my own little icons.
Get in touch with them, man. They're very open to suggestions, and they do work on stuff. But at the moment, that isn't something that you're able to do. So, all of that, take everything that I've said there. I think it's pretty darn compelling, to be honest. Like,
it is.
Especially you consider the price, right? $130. It's not breaking the bank. You can do an awful lot. It isn't actually activity based, but with some creativity, you can come darn close to it if you want to.
But I still say this is a device that the nerdiest person in the house programs to everyone's liking, and then you hand it to other people and show them the few things they need to hit. Yeah. That's where you're going with this, for sure.
Biggest drawback is going to be getting used to using that scroll wheel. That's going to be the biggest drawback on this. But
I think most of the time you won't be messing with that scroll wheel a lot. If you get it set up like you want, depending on what you do, right? Like how you use your stuff.
It gets used. That scroll wheel definitely gets used for sure. So I'll call that my Sofabaton U3 review. Yes. And naturally, just going to mention here, while we were already talking about Sofabaton, I tested it as of this morning when Lee and I were recording, and so far, our affiliate link and discount codes for the X2, the X1S are still seeming to function. So I will continue to put those in the show notes and the description. Now, we also have a teeny tiny little discount on the U3 because it is brand new. They aren't really doing too much right now, but and I don't even know if this will still be live by the time you hear this podcast. So no guarantees on this thing, but we have a link for the Sofabaton U3 at Amazon, and our promo code there is AVRant Rob.
What's the discount? I'm curious.
It's only 5%.
5%. That's still a thing.
I get pays for your tax if you have sales tax.
Penny.
Exactly. So, that's not a huge thing. And like I say, it might not even work by the time you get there. I mean, all of our codes were supposed to have expired now, so I don't know, but that's right. I'll put the link. So, what I mean is, don't get too mad if you click the link and you put in the promo code and it says this promo code no longer works. Be prepared. That could very well be the case when you hear this podcast, but that isn't now. I'm not alone in this Sofabaton U3 review because Lee can show you one little thing that I didn't have access to just yet.
Watch it mess with my camera here. Look.
There we go. We have proof of life of the charging dock.
There it is. It's in focus.
As you can see, the plastic is still... The plastic is still on leaf.
Fresh, and it's another beautiful Apple-looking box, right?
That's right.
So I'm sorry that it's still fresh. I just have not had the state of mind to properly do anything.
I don't think there's a ton to review with a charging dock. It has no buttons. It just has a thing you plug in the wall, and then the U3 will sit in the dock and charge itself. I can show on the bottom. So
some comments about its physical stability and how
because this is a pretty tall.
Yeah, that's a tall remote.
But it's not heavy. It's not heavy. Right. So
we'll see how well it sits in there and doesn't fall over and doesn't fall off the end table, etc.
If you don't have the dock, it just comes with a USB-C cable. That's how I charged it the one time that I needed to so far. You can see there's a couple of little metal contacts. That's obviously what's going to make contact with the charging dock. Charging dock is a $30 add-on, and it does exist. We have proof. So
I love when some focus is put on the battery life on devices like this. Yeah. I still have my boombox. I bought that Sony big fat boombox years ago. I think I've charged it 6 times, maybe. It's just been years. I don't know how often I charge it. I don't keep track of it because it's like months.
Right.
Unless I take it outside and use it for hours and hours at a time, loud at the swimming pool kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. I love it when people use the proper battery in a device so that we don't have to constantly set stuff back on a dock or a charger. So
indeed,
we'll see how often this gets used.
So Sofabaton U3 remote review completed. We've mentioned the affiliate links and discount codes, but we have one more exciting bit of Sofabaton news because, they're not going to leave us hanging. We're doing a giveaway. We're gonna have. I'm gonna say at this point, at least one Sofabaton U3 to give away. Once again, just like when we announced our X1S giveaway, all of the final details have not been fully worked out because they are just bringing these into warehouses now. So as far as supply and when things will ship out, but they've said, we should be ready within like 2-3 weeks to send out at least one giveaway unit. it. So look, same rules are going to apply. Just email us. You're gonna send an email to question@avrant.com. You're gonna say somewhere in your subject or the body of the text of your email, I would like to enter the Sofabaton U3 giveaway, or something to that effect. Just a clear message that you want to be part of the giveaway. It is going to be 1 entry per person. That's going to be the limit. I will do my level best to email back just a quick acknowledged that we did receive your entry, and we're gonna have entries open for at least 2 weeks. Depending on what Sofabaton says, it might be longer. We might have more than one Sofabaton U3 to give away, but I'm not going to guarantee it, so I'm going to say we will give away at least one Sofabaton U3. And if you would like a chance to win that Sofabaton U3, then email us question@avrant.com and say you would like to enter the giveaway. 1 entry per person. I'm not going to say when the cutoff date is just yet because I don't know for 100% sure. I also don't know if they're going to include a dock or charging dock with it, or if it's just going to be the remote. I have no idea. I'm going to say there's going to be at least one Sofabaton U3 remote.
That's all we can guarantee. You are going to have a chance to win. Not win. I guess win is the right word. To be
randomly be drawn for.
Random drawing. Somebody's going to get a U3 remote. Just
that is
enter by
sure.
saying, "Give me that remote."
At least one AVRant listener is going to get a Sofabaton U3 remote for free. Possibly more than one person, possibly with a dock or not. We don't know. But yeah, you can email us and enter, and there you go. No purchase necessary. This is purely a giveaway. It's not a purchase lottery or anything like that. Okay, we got to get moving here. That was a long time, but it was worth doing. So what we watched, let's skip to that section there. Lee, what have you watched?
Sure. I went back to the same things that I'm trying to finish, For All Mankind and then also Foundation, both on Apple TV. But this is just the few days since we've been home from Vancouver, and I haven't been feeling good. I'm like falling asleep while I'm trying to watch that. So that's not working well. And then I mentioned that ever since experiencing Rob's little black hole of a theater that you wrap around your body, you slide into it like a large coat.
Yep.
And you put his theater on is what you do.
Not even that large a coat.
Right. And it is wonderfully light controlled, and you're floating in outer space like the little baby in 2001, just floating. So it inspired me to actually turn the lights off, like I mentioned before. So that's been kind of fun. Also, we've been watching some hockey. We're just so Canadian now. I've been watching the Stanley Cup, and I don't know jack squat about hockey. I've only recently learned what offsides means.
Okay. Yep.
So I'm learning enough to enjoy it, and also enough to realize this has been a wacky Stanley Cup so far.
A little bit. But
things happen that don't normally happen, right?
This final has been really, really good. Yeah, we got the Vegas Golden Knights, Las Vegas Golden Knights, and the Carolina Hurricanes, North Carolina Hurricanes. They are the two teams in the finale. One of them is going to win the Stanley Cup, and it's been better than anticipated. The game's really, really tight games. Crazy comebacks that have happened. Just wild stuff that's been going on in the Stanley Cup. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Enjoyed that. And it makes you wish for the highest frame rates ever.
Right.
Because this little puck is just, sometimes it's a line because it's going so fast, and the sound is very good. Actually, I love when everybody gets clustered at the goal trying to score, and it just gets so clickety clackety.
Or just anybody gets crunched into the boards. It's a satisfying sound, all right.
And you also get because arenas are smaller than giant football stadiums. You can hear individual humans in there screaming, and being ridiculous.
They mic up the crowd. There's no question about that.
Banging on the glass. So it's a high energy sport, isn't it?
And seeing it live is like it's crazy better. You would think, having watched enough hockey on TV, like how different could it be? No, but live hockey is stellar. There's nothing else like it. It's a
I agree with you.
High excitement game.
I've been to a couple of hockey games, a few hockey games in my life, and most recently went to a college game between the two rivals here in the state of Alabama. And I found it a lot more exciting than I thought, and colder than I thought. I should have brought a hoodie. But then by now, Rob, that I'm always cold unless I'm back home here, right? So
little tease, you did all right in Vancouver, but you also lucked out. We're going to stress that. All right.
So beautiful.
I'll talk about the one movie that I watched this week. I ventured out to the theater, so this is not on any streaming service that I watched this. I went out to a IMAX theater, not the full gigantic IMAX. Some people might call it LIMAX. It's one of the old large format theaters that was converted to digital IMAX with a laser projector. But I went ahead and saw Masters of the Universe. Yes,
Okay.
this is the brand new He-Man Masters of the Universe, but just Masters of the Universe is the title of the movie. So written by Aaron and Adam Nee primarily, but also there was about 8 other story by and screenplay by credits, most prominently Chris Butler and Dave Callahan, but there were like at least 4 other names for the story by, which gives a little hint what's going on the writing side of things. Directed by Travis Knight. He's the one who did the Bumblebee movie, taking over for Michael Bay, and actually made the Transformers look like Transformers and not just a hodgepodge of random parts. But Bumblebee got the look right of everything. So yeah, this is starring Nicholas Galitzin, who is a really good casting for Adam / He-Man. I thought the casting was really spot on. Actually, I thought the casting all around was maybe the strongest part of Masters of the Universe. Camila Mendes is playing Tila. Idris Elba is playing Duncan Man-at-Arms. And then we have Jared Leto playing Skeletor. Absolutely. If you didn't know, you'd have absolutely no idea it was him. We never see his face. It is just Skeletor's skeleton face. The physical performance of I'm like, was that actually Jared Leto in a motion capture suit, or is he entirely CGI? Was it someone else doing the motion capture body? I don't know. This didn't have to be Jared Leto in any way, shape, or form, but
interesting.
He is at the
been voicing it like
he is at the very least the voice. And then we also have Alison Brie, Marina Baccarin playing Evil Lynn and the Sorceress respectively. Smaller roles there. So I'll just say right off the top, I like Alison Brie a lot. She's one of my favorite actresses to watch. Loved her on Community, of course, and was also on Mad Men, and then lots of other things, Glow, and I've enjoyed her in many, many things. For some reason, she was in a completely different movie from everybody else in this movie. I don't know if that was down to her. I don't know if she was directed to be that way. So this is a little bit of a difficult movie to describe. I would have to say I found it kind of mid in the end. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10 if I was going to score this thing. Because if I were to describe Masters of the Universe in a single word, I would call it timid. It felt like they were trying so hard and thinking so hard to please everybody who might come and see this movie that they just didn't plant their feet anywhere and take a position and take a tone and just be like, this is the way we're doing Masters of the Universe, and here it is. And maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but we took a stand. Like, compare it to the Barbie movie, right? Why did everyone go crazy over the Barbie movie? Well, they took a position.
Yeah,
they
it had
took
a
stand.
Personality. That movie was oddly good.
It was
like I watched it on a lark. Like, let me watch this stupid thing. And in the end, I was like, that was fantastic.
And some people might hate the Barbie movie, and I could understand it. But okay, like the one thing you cannot accuse the Barbie movie of is being wishy-washy or not having any idea what it wants to say. It's like, no, it took a position, and it was clear in its message, and it's clear in its tone, and that's the Barbie movie. Masters of the Universe is the polar opposite, and that's why I pointed out the 8 different writers you had on this thing, because there are scenes in this movie where it's like, that was darn good. Like, that was a really good scene. Whether it be some of the action scenes, there was a couple of really heartfelt, touching, emotional scenes. I was like, that was really... Look, you got Idris Elba. You got Camila Mendes. You got Nicholas Galitzin. Like, these are good actors who really fit their roles. You give them a good scene, and you're going to get a good scene, and that's absolutely the case. But it doesn't have the consistency across all the scenes. This felt like about 5 different movies where it's like, is this going to be a pure homage to the 80s cartoon? Well, in a couple of scenes it is. Is this going to be a modern take on like our take on how does He-Man, the character of He-Man, fit into like modern ideals of masculinity? Well, in a couple of scenes we're going to do that. Is this a father and a son story? Well, a couple of times. It's like, we want to get a little bit in there for everybody. Heck, we're even going to have a scene with Orko, even though he's not actually a main character in this movie, just because somebody's going to come in here and be like, where was Orko? Well, there he is, kind of, but like not as much as you wanted if you were a fan of Orko, but not absent the way he is for most of this movie. So there's little touches, little phrases of like every version of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe that there's been, because somebody's coming into this movie having seen some other version, and they're going to want to see the version that they know best, and we're going to allude to it. We're going to have a little bit of it, but we're not going to commit to any of them.
Yeah,
and
when you try to make something for everyone, it's not quite perfect for anyone.
That said, I don't think this is a bad movie. I enjoyed my time with it. I smiled throughout it, but I also... I can't even say this is a kid's movie, because there's some lines where it's like, whoa, like that was oddly sexually explicit, at least in the language. Like, cool, because they're making fun of some of the names, which is like, well, what are you going to do? Are you just going to say these are the characters' names? Because those were the characters' names. Are you going to try and poke fun at? They definitely tried the let's poke fun at these names. But some of these names, like, for example, Fisto, are going to make some people kind of go, well, are we going to make the joke about it? Oh, they're going to make the joke about it in this movie.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, oh, so... it is meant for 40 years old plus folks like me, because I can't really say this is meant for the kids, and it is oddly violent in places, despite in Canada a PG rating, in the US it's a PG-13 rating. No blood is being spilled on here, so they don't ever get up to an R rating. But they also drop a couple of cuss words in there, so they're not going for a flat PG rating. That's why it's PG-13 in the US. Right. So it's kind of like, okay, who's this movie for?
I mean, I grew up on reruns of Bugs Bunny, which is a perfect example of how you write something for kids and adults at the same time.
No,
but,
this
you have to have a set level of subtlety and sarcasm for the adult.
It does not.
If
go
it's a
for
little
subtlety.
too in your face, so to speak.
Yes. So Jared Leto, as at least voicing Skeletor, if nothing else, is not trying to recreate the voice. Too iconic a voice. So he's not trying to recreate it. He's doing his own spin on it with a heavy fake British accent.
Oh, okay.
But it worked. When he is cackling, it's like, okay, yep, that's Skeletor. I enjoyed the cackle. They do the Austin Powers jokes about the villains laughing and all that type of stuff, lifted directly. Like I say, Alison Brie, strangely in a different movie than everybody else. Like really going for the ham, like really, really hamming it up. And it's like, well, everyone else knows that they're in a hammy movie. It's Master of the Universe. It's He-Man. It is a hammy movie, but Idris Elba, Camila Mendes, Nicholas Galitzin, they're aware that it's ham, but they're playing it straight. That's where we get some of the touching scenes. And I was like, okay. So yeah.
And you never know what individual actors were told to do on set. A director might say, for you, I want you to go ahead and act like this. Yeah, so.
And it seemed like there were so many little hints and so many little threads of like, well, maybe somebody's going to betray somebody else, or maybe somebody's going to team up with somebody else. And it's kind of like, well, probably in one draft of this movie at some point they did, but everything kind of got dropped. And then like the disappointing part of like, maybe we're going to try something kind of novel with the ending, like we're really going to try and do a modern ending, a modern take on He-Man and masculinity and do something there. And they're like, well, we're gonna lip service such an idea, but then we're also just going to punch. And so it's like,
so too many cooks. Right?
I think that was the feeling that I got. That said, I thought it was entertaining. I thought it sounded great. I thought the score was really strong. They throw in some of the 80s tunes, but they also do a new score and a new theme. I'm like, that's pretty strong. The score was really strong. So yeah, I don't know if this will get the planned sequel. They definitely do the after credits. Here comes the sequel. Yeah. Very easy to guess what they're hinting at if you know anything about the Masters of the Universe series and He-Man and who he's related to and whatnot. So a very, very clear hinting of what they are planning to do next. But if they get a sequel, it's going to have half the budget of this movie, I guarantee it, because this has not done, crazy numbers at the box office. And yeah, I can't really blame. I've talked to, some folks my niece and nephew's age, and they're like, I hate this movie. Because they don't have any nostalgia for it. And
I don't either. I was the wrong age for He-Man, Masters of the Universe.
You were a little bit too old. You would have been a teenager, and it's not cool to watch He-Man. I'm the perfect age. I am the target demographic. I did enjoy it, but I wish they had just taken a position and gone for it whole hog like the Barbie movie did. I thought there were a lot of good ideas. I thought there were some very strong individual scenes. I thought there were definite strong points of this movie, but overall I give it a 6 out of 10.
Gotcha. It sounds like maybe you wanted it to be just a little more adult, a little more serious,
or
maybe.
Totally kiddie,
or completely,
totally fine either way.
I got you.
Yeah. whatever you want to do, just take a position, pick one. Okay, so I already mentioned that our email address is question@avrant.com, but that is the way to get in touch with us. Our contact info here, that is by far the best way. Reach out to us, send your questions, question@avrant.com, if you would like your question answered on this here question and answer podcast. But you can also find us, of course, at our website, avrant.com, and see the show notes over there. We've got our links to our Flickr albums where you can see the images that we're going to have in line on YouTube. Speaking of which, youtube.com/avrant if you want to see the video version of this podcast. And then we're on the social medias, facebook.com/avrant podcast, and youtube.com/avrant. And then I am rob@avrant.com if you want to email me directly, tom@avrant.com if you want to email him directly, and unfortunately still no lee@avrant.com.
Why? What have I done?
You didn't do anything. There was a change made, and Tom is not going to put the effort in. But you can find us on social medias. I'm First Reflect on Blue Sky. Lee, where can folks find you on Blue Sky?
On Blue Sky, I guess, is the simplest because I'm Lee over Sky.
Lee over Sky. There you go. You can find both of us on the social medias there. All right, so let's thank our listeners of the week, folks who have supported this podcast in some way. If you'd like to make a one-time donation, come to our website, avrant.com. Over on the right-hand side of the desktop version, you can see a little cup of coffee there that says support AVRant. It'll take you to PayPal, where you can make a one-time donation if you'd like to. I don't see those. Only Tom sees those, so I don't know if we had any donations within the past week. We will catch up next week if we did. But you can also support us financially through Patreon. That is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So we've got 121 patrons holding strong over there, and thank you all very much for the financial support. I'll also say a big thank you to the folks who just sent in notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going week after week. So the names this week are Jason, Jairus, Joe, and Sasi. We almost had a sweep of J names there, but Sasi sneaking in at the end on Sunday night just to ruin that running gag there. So yes, Jason, Jairus, Joe, and Sasi, thank you very much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement, because we do appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. So a little bit of quick news if Lee is up for it.
Yeah, let's pop through the news. It only took 9 years, but Lionsgate Studios has finally decided to join Movies Anywhere. Movies Anywhere is still only available in the USA, despite the name. But starting next month, there will be 225 Lionsgate titles that work with the service, with the plan being to add another 100 titles every month throughout 2026 and 2027. Feels like they could just dump it all on there, but that's not how anything works.
Nope.
This leaves Paramount and Amazon MGM as the only major studios still not participating in Movies Anywhere / somewhere.
So the idea of Movies Anywhere, if you're not familiar with it, is let's say you go to Apple Movies and you purchase a movie through the Apple Movies store there, but then you also have Fandango at home, which used to be Vudu, or you also have, what would have been, is Google Movies still around? Whatever.
Hey, don't think
One
so.
of the other services, the idea is that through Movies Anywhere, you can cross-pollinate and be able to access movies that you purchased on one service through any of the other services. This also applies for your like digital codes that you would get when you buy a physical disc, right? You enter the digital code to have the streamable version of the movie, and now it's going to cross-pollinate through Movies Anywhere across all of the various streaming services. So that's Movies Anywhere. It's been a nice service. Lionsgate has, said they're not going to be part of it for ages and ages, but they finally decided to join. So hooray.
Interesting. I'm actually kind of amazed that there is even that much cooperation on something like that. Because obviously one day in the future, when you buy a product, a digital product, it should just work on anything you have. That product should be separate from the devices on which you consume said product, whatever weird thing that is in the future. And I'm sure one day we'll look back and wonder why it was so dang complicated, in the 2000s and 2020s, but right now it's complicated. It feels like we're still dragging the 1990s along with it sometimes. Like,
everybody still wants to be proprietary.
Right. Everybody still wants to be the one whose system wins out.
That's right.
almost all the announcements past couple of weeks from Google, Microsoft, and Apple at their various developer conferences have been about AI, as everything has been lately. It's so frustrating. But at Apple's WWDC, there was one little tidbit about the Apple TV 4K that we know at least one of our AVRant listeners will be excited about. With the release of tvOS 27, the Apple TV 4K will be able to play back Apple Music streams in full high-res lossless format, all the way up to the service's maximum 24-bit, 192 kilohertz bit depth and sampling rate, which humans cannot hear. No. So, no more messing around with external DACs and adapter cables. The Apple TV 4K will be able to get the job done for Apple Music lovers at any setting. Apple was also touting how everything on the Apple TV 4K will launch faster and feel more responsive, which only became a complaint after last year's update to the new liquid glass interface, which isn't going away entirely, but you'll be able to tone the transparency effects way down. You know, I was just complaining to Heather recently about how I hate animated anything on something I'm trying to use, and click the stupid timer on my phone. It has to go doodly doodly doo, and the numbers have to scroll for a second before it settles in, and I can hit start. Like, no, just pop up and start. I've been that way with like Windows when it had arrow effects, Windows 7 and whatever. Everything off, just a pop, 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 pop. I don't need anything cute. Just go.
People have certainly made the comments about how liquid glass on the Apple products is like, we're going back to Windows Vista, are we? That was the idea you thought was the direction we should go. So, but anyway, no, pleased to see. I mean, I don't think it's important whatsoever to be outputting 24-bit 192 kilohertz, but there are the folks who are like, I'm subscribed to Apple Music. This is the highest numbers that they offer. And yet the only way I could get it was through my iPhone or through my iPad. Those were like the only ways I could hear it. And if I wanted to play it back on my home system, I had to get an adapter cable because I couldn't do it wirelessly. I had to get an adapter cable, plug it into my iPhone, then plug that into an external DAC, and then feed an analog signal to my AV receiver or pre-pro in order to supposedly hear the higher bit rate and higher sampling rate. But
maybe
now, after tvOS 27 gets updated on the Apple TV 4K, just directly through the Apple TV 4K through an HDMI connection, I'm like, there you go. That's the correct solution. I appreciate
for 24 192. You want 24 192 into your earbuds, into your ear holes, into your ears.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to comments?
Let's.
All right, comments. Nelson, regarding Infinite Gary's mystery cylinder from a couple of weeks ago, despite us saying that the last thing we want is for podcasts we like to turn into let me grok that for you, he decided to grok it for us. He got back a reply that it's a 1,000 watt weatherproof industrial floodlight or a marine grade signal light from 1959. Definitely it's some kind of light. And definitely it's old. So there you go.
Sure.
It's 1,000 watts.
Like all AI responses, it's a plausible enough response. Can't confirm or deny. I should hope it thinks it's 59 since the date is stamped onto the thing. So good for you for recognizing that, Grok AI. But I'm still not going to say for a 100% certain that that's what this is, but it's a plausible answer. So
it sure looks like it would be a old and bright light.
It's 1,000 watts. That's clearly stamped on the back. So 1,000 watts is a substantial amount of power for, this doesn't look like a gigantic thing. That is an industrial plug that we recognized on the bottom there. So, okay.
Well, thank goodness we have Grok, or we wouldn't have had a clue.
I don't know. So yes, I'm not planning to turn that in. But you know what? Nelson was nice enough to write into us. I'm not trying to rag on you, Nelson. You're trying to help, and we do appreciate it. But yeah, I'm still not going to say, well, that's definitely what it is then, because you know what? Heck, even Grok gave two potential answers. So.
Right. That's where I'm at with AI. I know its limitations. I think there are a lot of people making it sound like I'm so much smarter than the rest of the world, but there are a lot of people who I don't think understand what it's doing and how it's doing it.
I've heard the literal phrase, I prefer asking, ChatGPT or any of the other AIs because computers don't make mistakes. I've literally heard people say that. And I was like, oh, well, that's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not true. In a very literal, direct sense, it's not true.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like you can say that because a computer will do what it's told.
I mean,
and
they used
do what
to.
it's told until it breaks. But that's not what's going on with AI. And so I'm in that camp of where, like, I use it for the certain, like if I want to ask a question with an English language sentence because I can't figure out what would be an easier way to search for the information. And I feel like the information coming back is probably going to be easy to calculate. So, you know,
yes,
if I want to say,
like easy enough to double check. If it points you in the right direction, it is you did that when we were together. You were trying to think of the title of a movie, and you had a description in mind, but you couldn't remember the title off the top of your head. Yeah. And so you literally just described. I don't know which one you used, ChatGPT or whatever it was, but
it was Silent Running.
Yes, that was the title. But I mean, I don't know which AI you used, but you just described what you. Yeah,
Google
okay.
Gemini,
So you described what you could remember of it, and it gave back a plausible answer, and it turned out to be the right answer. It was the one you were thinking of.
That's actually a little Canada story we could talk about.
Yes, that's right. If it had been the wrong answer, well, not the end of the world, and maybe it would have pointed you in the right direction or sparked the memory in your own mind. So that's fine. That's great.
What I'm never going to use it for, I say never, you never know what the future's like. But what I don't and won't use it for is to replace my own brain. And
Hopefully
I think what a lot of people and what most business uses of AI are for right now is people are just writing emails with it. And
it seems like that seems to be their promoted killer app is never deal with email again. So great, we're just going to have a bunch of machines emailing back and forth supposedly on our behalf, and we won't have any clue what's been said.
So just the absurdity of people are using AI to generate extensive reports of things that they didn't write, and then they send it to somebody who then uses AI to summarize that.
Exactly. Yes.
And then they write back a note that they use AI to make sound fancier and more business.
That's right.
Until nobody's talking about anything.
That's right.
I don't know if I think my wife told you the story about another teacher in the system. It was something very simple, like all he really needed to do was ask where something was at.
Oh, right,
it was available in the library. Yeah. But he ended up with like a 3-paragraph formal, this is so and so. How
it didn't take him much effort, so why not?
It's just people. You've got a brain, type. I just can't believe that's what's irritating me the most about it. But the simple searches for like, hey, what was the average cost of a laser disc player in 1985? That's a quicker search than pecking around for 2 hours, right? And it's probably right.
It'll give you a plausible answer. Yeah.
But if something's critical, don't do it. Research yourself. Anyway, shall we move on to actual questions?
We better. Yeah, we got to get a move on here.
Zip through some stuff here. Manuel has started having problems with his Epson 5050 UB projector. Now, that's a workhorse of a projector right there. It's showing some vertical lines, and they've started to get worse. Ouch. He figures he can tough it out until the end of the year if he needs to, but he's definitely looking to buy a new display by year's end. He's currently using a 100-inch screen sitting 9.5 feet away, and he's happy with that field of view. His room is roughly 16 by 20 feet, and it has light control. But he's tempted to go with a flat panel at this point. A 98-inch could certainly satisfy him in terms of screen size. Ideally, he'd spend as little as $1,500, but he could see his way as high as $3,000 if it's really worth it. It is. Naturally, his dream would be a 97-inch OLED, but that is out of reach for the budget, of course. Yeah, we would all love a giant wall in our house to just be an OLED. Just the whole wall across from my couch could be an OLED, and I could just use however much of it I want to. Yeah, inevitably. So what would make more sense? Come down to an 83-inch so that he can get an OLED, or stick with the 98-inch size and get a mini LED LCD TV. Should he be looking to buy now, or will there be TVs worth waiting for? And finally, if he waits, when is the absolute best time to score the lowest price? It's not Black Friday.
Not really.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So goodness gracious, that's a tough one because I love the OLED Perfect Black.
Sure.
And the contrast. The beauty of an OLED is really something else. Sure. So if the size of an 83 it satisfies you size-wise and is in the budget, that's what I would lean toward just because I love it, right? But then again, I don't have a lot of experience with projectors like other people. And some people just feel like a projector gives a whole different vibe, right? So maybe you want to stay with a projector, but I don't think I would I personally wouldn't go for the LCD. That's just me. But
okay. I mean, that is a fair side to take.
Lee Overstreet approach.
Yep. I will take a bit of an opposite approach. I think there are a couple of mini LED quantum dot LCD TVs at the 98-inch screen size within your budget, part of my consideration here, for sure, is that you are coming from a projector, right? So while the jump from projector performance to OLED performance is definitely going to be noticeable, you're not coming from like plasma to larger screen. You're not coming from former OLED to larger OLED. You're coming from the projector setup. And I'm like, okay, so you can still improve upon without giving anything up in screen size. Because, I mean, when you have a high local dimming count on the quantum dot mini LED TVs, it's like, hey, looking pretty darn good, man. Like, are they literally the equal of OLED? No, but holy smokes, they are looking pretty darn good, and a noticeable upgrade from a projector, even one as good as the Epson 5050 UB. So I don't disagree with Lee, but I can also make an argument for both directions. So I just wanted to point out, right now is actually a very good time to buy one of these 98-inch TVs.
Smack in the middle of summer, late spring.
And more than that, this year in particular, I alluded to it last week. So I'm just going to point out, if you are willing to spend as much as $3,000, you can buy right now a 98-inch TCL QM8K for $3,000. That is $2,000 less than it normally sells for. It's $2,000 less than the brand new QM8L. That is just replacing the QM8K, which is why the QM8K is down to $3,000. Oodles of local dimming zones, those quantum dot colors, really, really nice black levels when you have the full array local dimming doing all of that work for you, the 98-inch screen size. And here's the thing. This year in particular, the brand new models that are coming in, like the QM8L, like the X11L, the flagship that costs way, way more, it might be the case that by the end of this year, they're every bit as accurate and good as the QM8K is currently. But they switched to new chipsets in almost everybody except Sony this year. And it appears there are some growing pains that everybody's working through. If you look up all the reviews of the brand new TVs, all the reviewers are pointing out, like, the colors aren't quite as accurate as the 2025 TVs. The EOTF tracking is a little bit off. And it's like, these things will almost certainly get tweaked. They'll almost certainly be very accurate after multitudes of firmware updates by the end of this year. But it's like, you can get a QM8K right now that it already had all of its firmware updates throughout 2025. It is really accurate. It is really good. And about the only thing I would point to with the QM8L at $2,000 more is, like, the QM8L's anti-reflective screen is a little bit better than the QM8K's was. But you have full light control. You're not really worried about bright reflections. So I'm like, okay, you can get yourself a heck of a good 98-inch TV at the $3,000 price point. But if you're like, he was like, $1,500 would be closer to ideal. There's the QM7K. It's down to $2,000 for the 98-inch screen size.
So what's going to be your picture quality difference between those two gigantic televisions?
It's not quite as bright, which you're in a, like, dim environment anyway, so I'm really not worried about peak brightness. It doesn't have quite as many local dimming zones, so there's a chance you'll see a little bit of blooming on the QM7K, whereas the QM8K, like, you gotta look for blooming. You can see it sometimes in, like, bright white subtitles on a black background. You'll see a little bit of bloom about the bright around the bright white subtitles. I'm not gonna say there's no blooming on the QM8K, but it's like, you're getting to splitting hairs territory. The QM7K, you can see the bloom around those subtitles. It's like, it's fairly obvious, but it's like, if you gotta save the money, like, you're coming from an Epson 5050 UB, I would be shocked if you look at a 98-inch QM7K and you're like, oh, I don't like it. It's like, it's a really good TV at a remarkably good price. So
yeah, I mean, it's compelling, and I just like, it's breathtaking how good those prices are if you have the money. I'm just not a fan. I like local dimming. I don't love. I see that blooming, and every time I see blooming, I want to take my glasses and go, do I have something on my glasses?
But I mean, when it's really well done, like, they're getting really good. They're getting really close. So, I mean, that honestly, that's the way I lean. Honestly, I don't think I'd wait. Like I say, there's not a really compelling reason to wait for the 2026 models to come down in price. Like, in fact, at least at launch, they got a little bit worse because they made some changes and there's some growing pains this year. Yeah. So, I mean, that was Sony's justification for sticking with the old chipset with the new Bravia 7.2 and 9.2 that we talked about last week. We intentionally stuck with the older chipset because we know how to work with it, and our goal was accuracy to our own mastering monitor, and Sony is the one who did it. Everybody else is like, everything's a little off, the colors are a little off, the contrast is a little off, the OTF track is a little off. Maybe they'll fix it, but maybe they won't. Whereas the 2025s, they're bang on, so I see no reason to wait.
What a strange phenomenon that everybody switches to a new chipset, and how does a chipset get the picture wrong? It's so strange. I mean,
it's literally translating every single subpixel from the signal that's coming in, so it's got a lot of controlling to do. I suspect the 2027s will be awesome, but why wait an entire year and a bit?
I like that. So there you go. There's a couple of options. Let's move on to Infinite Gary.
Of course.
It wouldn't be a podcast with Lee if Infinite Gary doesn't say something. Pure speculation time. He's got an old 46-inch Sony TV with a CCFL backlight. Now, that's some good old school stuff right there. Needs to be replaced. It's strictly going to be SDR viewing. Mm-hmm. And as we know, he doesn't enjoy a bright image. Please don't burn my eyes. He wants colors that really, really, really look like real life when he's watching sports. He tried bringing in his professionally calibrated LG C3, and he just didn't think the skin tones looked perfectly lifelike on the OLED. Let me just stop right there and say that if you're watching sports, ESPN sucks at getting the color.
It's the signal, not the TV itself.
Yeah. I mean, their flagship shows, like if it's the championship of something, they tend to get it right. But they have different trucks. And not every truck knows what it's doing. And I promise you, I've watched some college football games that looked terrible. Like I had a camcorder in 2007 that looked better than what I've seen out of it. So what you're seeing might not be so much the display as you know the signal being sent to you. So because not all sports broadcasts are created equal by a long shot, and this is true for other networks as well. So don't necessarily judge it by that. So he's basically already planning to bring in a 48-inch LG C6 and the brand new 50-inch Sony Bravia 7.2 to see them side by side for himself. But what do we anticipate will the new TrueRGB tech satisfy him? Nothing will ever satisfy Infinite Gary.
No, not fully. No.
Will the C6 look better to him than his C3? Now that's one good question. Can the average eyeball notice C6 versus C3?
Especially when you're not looking at brightness differences in HDR, because that's the clear thing you can point to. The C6 can pump out more nits than the C3 used to, but that is absolutely not what Gary cares about. SDR only, you can turn off that brightness booster that they have, turn off the white subpixel essentially, and rely only on the red, green, blue subpixels in standard dynamic range on the C6. But here's the thing. From all those early reviews and samples that the folks who saw the brand new Sony Bravia 7.2 and 9.2, they're TrueRGB, meaning it's individual red, green, and blue backlights. It's still an LCD TV, but every pixel has red, green, and blue subpixels that can be individually controlled rather than just solid white subpixels and then just color filters. So given that everybody pointed out, Sony had those brand new Bravia 7.2 and the 9.2 right next to their own HX3110 mastering monitor, and they're like, our goal was to make these consumer displays look like this professional display.
That's nice to hear from a company, because usually they keep different levels of performance and features at different price points, and they actually don't want their less expensive TVs to look as good as a much more expensive
and as display. We just said, they're like, we purposely stuck with the old chipset because we knew how to control it to get really accurate colors and really accurate grayscale and shadow detail tracking and all of those things, and by all accounts from all the people who did including Vincent Teo, whom I trust implicitly when it comes to these things, they're like, that looks as close to that HX3110 as any consumer display that we've seen. So I'm like, I have a suspicion that look, it's going to be accurate colors. Whether the skin tones look perfectly lifelike is going to be up to what the television station is sending you.
Yeah.
But if you want to know that the TV you're watching is as darn accurate in color and grayscale and shadow detail tracking as it can be, it seems like these Sonys are the thing. Now, the Sony Bravia 7 II does not have as many local dimming zones as the 9 II, but the 9 II doesn't come in the smaller 50-inch size. So could there be a little bit of blooming around some things? Probably every once in a while. Could there be a little bit of that, color motion shift where you have one color that's moving across the screen going through these various red, green, and blue backlights, so you can get a little bit of color tinging, a little bit of color fringing that folks like Vincent Teo have pointed out is a thing that can happen when you're not just putting up solid test patterns. So it's like, do I think you'll think this is the perfect display, Gary? No, I do not. You're the type of person who I think will spot some of these little, artifacts that are going on. But you pointed out the thing you want is accurate color. I think the Sony is going to be the way to go.
Sure. Oh, definitely. Gary has heard us say in the past that the kick you in the chest bass is actually at a higher frequency than a lot of people think. So does that mean it is actually coming mostly from your front speakers as opposed to coming from your subwoofers? Not quite.
Unlikely, because
correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of maybe 40 hertz, 50 hertz.
40 to 60 hertz. It's that 40 to 60 hertz range. That's the real physical tactile. I feel a thump in my chest. It's the kick drum fundamental is in the 40 to 60 hertz range.
So if you're using the recommended 80 hertz crossover, it's coming from the sub.
Yeah. So it's possible that some of that is coming from a front speaker. You could certainly set the crossover point for a front speaker to be in that range. So it's certainly possible. But the likelihood is that, if you have a typical crossover and you do have subwoofers in your systems, it is still the subwoofer providing that kick.
There you go. How about Jay? Jay has questions. Jay was reading up on the newest Denon AV receivers, and he got a little confused about the 4 independent subwoofer pre-outs on the X3900H. First up, it mentions that 1 out of the 4 subwoofer pre-outs can be designated as a tactile transducer pre-out. How useful is that, really? Is that not a niche application? Yeah, pretty much. And what if you still want to use 4 subwoofers? Let's deal with that question first. So if you want 4 subwoofers, but you also want a butt kicker.
Okay. Is
that something you can do, ought to do?
I think I have to answer this all at once.
Okay, shall I read through the rest of the questions?
No. Okay. Just this section A. But rather than just focusing on the 4 subwoofers and a tactile transducer setup, if you have a tactile transducer, I think this is tremendously useful. I mean, obviously, if you don't have a tactile transducer, it's not of much use to you. But if you do, I think it's tremendously useful because if you are going to use any of the room correction that is, optional to use in the Denon X3900H, this applied to the X3800H as well because that had this feature as well. It comes with Odyssey XT32 out of the box. So if you are running Odyssey, this is going to be tremendously useful. If you decide to pay the extra and upgrade to Dirac, then it's going to be useful there as well, because what's at issue here is there's going to be an equalization curve applied to the subwoofer pre-outs. That it's going to happen. There's going to be some changes made. It's not going to be a ruler flat line. You actually don't want any equalization going to the tactile transducer. You want the tactile transducer receiving a completely unadulterated base signal from the original source, because the tactile transducer doesn't need to contend with room modes and sound wave reflections. Right. So you don't want certain frequencies boosted and certain frequencies cut in the tactile transducer. So that's why we've talked about in the past, when you didn't have this option to have a dedicated tactile transducer pre-out, you would need to undo the Odyssey or Dirac correction that was applied to the subwoofers for what you feed to the tactile transducer. So that's where we got into, you connect a mini DSP and you can do the loop through system where you can have the signal coming out of your laptop and then see the signal coming back in through the mini DSP and compare those and then invert the signal so you get a perfect inverse equalization and get your tactile transducer signal back to being not equalized by your AV receiver signal. This makes all of that moot and unnecessary.
Yeah,
You say, this is my tactile transducer pre-out, not a subwoofer pre-out, so it does not apply any EQ to that dedicated tactile transducer pre-out. So much simpler. Don't need a mini DSP for your tactile transducer anymore, and just makes the whole thing swimmingly easy to use. So I think it's tremendously useful if you have a tactile transducer. Now, what if you want to have a tactile transducer and 4 subwoofers? So this gets into the whole okay, well, actually, why don't we do B, read through B? Because, yeah, this all ties together with what I'm going to say.
Let's tie it all together. As far as he can tell, if you use all 4 quote-unquote independent subwoofer pre-outs, then during auto setup, the Denon will give each subwoofer its own distance and its own trim level settings, correct?
That is correct, yes.
But then it still sums them all together to apply a single EQ to them as a mono group. Is that correct?
That is also correct.
Right,
Yes, it is not giving a individual EQ to each of the 4 subs. It's giving them independent distance and trim level settings only.
Okay, so the EQ is for all of them, but
Correct.
distance and trim is separate.
That's
So
right.
does that actually help in achieving better bass response? Yes. Is it an appreciable improvement, or could you get similar or perhaps even superior results by still just using a single subwoofer pre-out and splitting it to all 4 subs so that they all get the same mono signal? Well, then you're moving your subs around if you want to be perfect and changing the trim level on the sub itself if you want to get perfect, right?
Or the phase knob. Yep.
Or the phase knob, yeah. So it's better to have the receiver do all that.
Well,
so if you take, isn't it? I mean, it's
sometimes
simpler.
yes, sometimes no. That's what's been at issue here. With Odyssey, the issue is that it sets the distance and the trim level for each sub completely independently on its own, only based off of mic position number 1 and that initial ping, where it's just like, I know when I sent the signal out, how long does it take for the signal to reach the mic? That's going to include room reflections. And then how loud do I need to make each subwoofer so that at mic position number 1, I read them all as being equally loud. But that could include, the room modes that exist for sub number 2, but not sub number 3. And so it boosts sub number 2 in overall volume when the only reason it's quieter is because there's actually a room mode, which is going to go away once all 4 subwoofers are playing together. So you get into situations where, because that's how it sets it initially, and then those numbers are now set. The distance and the levels are now set, and then it plays them all together and EQs them as a mono sum together whole. But if you then go back and go, well, I can actually improve the uniformity across my seats by manually altering the distance of 1 or 2 of my 4 subs, or manually altering the level of 1 or 2 of my subs. Well, you can go ahead and make that change, but then if you try to EQ the sum together again, it's going to redo the distances and levels on you. There's no way to separate those things in Odyssey. So that's where we ended up with the notion of, well, actually, you kind of just still want to use a single subwoofer out, feed that one subwoofer out to something like a mini DSP.
Okay.
And now you can manually set all of the phase and delay and levels and everything for your 4 subs. Get that nice uniformity first, and now you let Odyssey run its EQ, which it was going to do anyway, but you've preset all of those other things, and it's only going to set a single distance and volume setting because it's only using one subwoofer pre-out. And so we ended up with that being the scenario. The thing is, it's different for Dirac. If you pay for the upgrade to Dirac Live Bass Control. So that's an extra payment, but Dirac Live Bass Control doesn't handle it exactly the way Odyssey does. It is not exactly the equivalent of the multi-sub optimizer, because the Dirac implementation on the Denon is also not applying a completely independent EQ to each of the 4 subs. But what it does do is measure each of the 4 subs completely independently first. It also measures your front, left, and right speakers, and then it calculates, rather than just saying, okay, I pinged it and I based my distance setting off of that, and I sent out the pink noise and I based my level setting off of that. It measures each of them individually and then calculates, what do the various delays and phase and levels need to be in order to achieve uniformity first, and then I apply a single EQ curve to all 4 subwoofers playing together. So that is the Dirac Live Bass Control is a better way of doing this than what Odyssey does, and is useful to actually have 4 independent subwoofers if you do that. So you end up with the scenario of, okay, going back to that first question, if I do want a tactile transducer dedicated output, which I do say is still useful, because otherwise you'd have to to undo what Dirac did to the subwoofer EQ.
Yeah.
But I still want to use 4 independent subwoofers with Dirac Live Bass Control. I would say if you're using Odyssey, don't bother, right? Just use the single subwoofer out. Still have them in EDSP, but it's only handling your 4 subs. You do that part manually first, and you let the tactile transducer output be the tactile transducer output. But if you do have Dirac Live Bass Control, I mean, the only reasonable solution is, well, you do them in pairs, right? You use 2 subwoofer pre-outs. You still might do a little bit of manual tuning for phase and level between pairs, but you'd have, pair number 1 and pair number 2, and then you'd let it handle it that way.
Okay. That makes sense, actually. Next question from Jairus.
So I've been saying Jairus because in the back of my head, I had an email where I believe that was how we were told to say it, but that is way back, and please feel free to correct us if I have that totally wrong, but that is what I recall.
Forgive me for dyslexing that.
Not at all.
I just saw it completely wrong. Jairus.
I think I remember it being Jairus, like 3 syllables.
Jairus.
Yeah.
Okay. I like to get people's names right, Jairus.
And I'm not saying that I am correct. I just it rang a bell in my head that at some point we had that correction given to us.
Always good to include a dumb DJ reading something instructions. So, Jairus. The last time Jairus asked us some questions was when his new home was being built. Well, it's already been 5 years since they moved in. Time does fly.
Yeah.
We gave him some specific speaker recommendations at the time, but he ended up buying a different set of speakers. They're still a common AVRant recommendation, though. He got 3 of the RSL CG23M speakers for his front 3, a pair of CG3M for surrounds wall mounted, plus the RSL Speedwoofer 12S sub. He also got 4 of their C34E Mark II in-ceiling speakers for Atmos. Sounds nice.
Yes,
so
it
does. He's been happy with the sound quality, but his wife isn't thrilled with the CG23M speakers that are serving as surround speakers right now and kind of sticking out into the room, right? So that must not be the look she's looking for.
Yeah.
He noticed that RSL has an in-wall speaker model, the W25E, but he's under the impression that it is very different from the rest of RSL's speakers. That made him wonder if he'd get a better timbre match by getting another pair of the C34E Mark II in-ceiling speakers instead, but he'd install them as in-walls, in which case, is there a way to give them square grills instead of round grills? What do we suggest? So like the first thing that comes to my mind is when it comes to like timbre matching, how important is it for the ones he's trying to replace?
I mean, less so than your front 3 speakers
Right.
really matching super, super well. And honestly, I got to tell you, Jairus, just get the W25Es.
There you go.
That is the solution here. That's the shape that you want. They're going to fit in the depth of your wall properly, because you got to remember the in-ceiling speakers are also a little deeper because they're expecting to go into the bays of a ceiling rather than the 3.5-inch depth of a 2x4 in your wall.
Right.
Whereas the W25Es are absolutely set up for wall purposes. I can see where he's coming from because they haven't done to the W25E Mark II just yet. That's probably coming. And there was a tweeter change, right? That's certainly what he's worried about. There's a tweeter change between the originals and then the current lineup, and the Mark II version of the in-ceiling speaker got that. But yeah, I mean, you've got surround speakers that are on your back wall. Surround speakers in general, I'm slightly less worried. And believe me, the timbre change that RSL did is nigh non-existent. This was much more about these are the parts we can get now, as opposed to we were really trying to change the sound of our speakers. That's just not the case. So I would absolutely recommend to you that you get a pair of the W25E. I think that's absolutely what you're looking for, and I have no worries that you're going to notice some type of horrible timbre mismatch across RSL speakers. It's just not going to be the case. I just wanted to add on to that I still recommend you have a rear enclosure, because RSL speakers do not have a rear enclosure for either their in-ceiling or their in-wall speakers. So I like to recommend, because this certainly looks like a scenario where it's going to be a retrofit, right? You're not building from scratch this home anymore. So everything's finished here. This is going to be a retrofit scenario, but you're going to be cutting a hole in the wall to put in the in-wall speakers. So I like a retrofit solution for the rear enclosure. And so I'm going to point you to Dynamat and their for the in-ceiling speakers. I don't know if you already did this behind your in-ceiling speakers, but I really recommend having a rear enclosure. So I like their Dynabox. It is, kind of expensive. They cost, in fact, more than the speakers that you bought. But it's a buy once, cry once, and it works really, really well. So this is each $150 each for the Dyna boxes. So it's not insignificant, the amount of money, but it's well worth it in my opinion. Mainly for the soundproofing that it provides, so that the rest of the house is not hearing your in-ceiling speakers playing in that cavity. But also, you're supposed to have a rear enclosure for fire purposes and things like that. So I think it's well worth it. And then they have the less expensive N-wall system for the in-wall speakers that gives you a rear enclosure for those W25E. If you go with my advice, and it's $75 each. So again, not super cheap, but you pay the price once, and I think it's well worth it.
There you go. All right. Yeah. This makes me think of the old days of analog surround when it was first available, and how your rear speakers could be a tuna fish can. Anything worked, like literally just like a speaker phone would be plenty for the frequency range back there. And so I think nowadays we might worry about it a little too much, but I think you're right. It's going to sound perfect. Yeah. Let's move on to Michael in Newfoundland. And are Canadians picky about how you pronounce Newfoundland?
I mean, you can tell if you're not Canadian because
what did I say wrong?
Yeah. Nope, you didn't say it wrong. No, Newfoundland. I mean, people say Newfoundland, right?
Newfoundland,
including in what was the Pierce Brosnan James Bond, where I think it was Denise Richards' character was supposed to be from Newfoundland, and she's like, I'm from Newfoundland, and we're like, no, you're not.
Again, I like to get pronunciations right, and Newfoundland. So there's a place you've never been either, right?
I've never been to Newfoundland.
How about that? Yeah, it's the other side of the continent. So Michael has questions. Michael used our help to put together a home theater system back in 2011. So he's been listening a while. Excellent. He is visually impaired, and his wife isn't all that concerned about a big or fancy TV. So at the time, they just went with a 32-inch 1080p TV from Philips, and then went with a Denon AVR 1912 receiver, PSB T5 tower front speakers, and Polk RTI series speakers for the center, surrounds, and subs. He enjoyed it, especially for 2-channel music, but they haven't had a full home theater setup for a few years now. He's interested in getting back into it now, though, so he's back to ask for some more guidance from us. Great. He's working with a $4,000 Canadian dollar budget. And again, the TV is not really the priority. He knows we have not been the biggest fans of the Amazon Fire TV interface that is built into some TVs, but he has found it to honestly be the most accessible.
Right.
So that's great. So unless we absolutely put our foot down and say it's the worst TV ever, he was planning to budget around $500 to get a 50-inch Amazon Ember 4 series TV, leaving him around $3,500 to go towards the surround sound system. That sounds reasonable to me given the situation.
I am not going to tell you to do otherwise. That's a consideration that I had not made. I am not forced to use the accessibility controls enough to be a good judge of which of these systems does it best, but I am absolutely going to put my trust in your suggestion that Amazon Fire TV. I mean, honestly, at least for you've found it to be the most accessible. This is going to be your TV, so I think that is a great choice. Obviously, I'm not going to say that the Ember 4 series, doesn't have any local dimming or anything like that. I'm not going to say it's like the pinnacle of TV technology and picture quality or something like that. But it's also like, it's totally watchable. If you're not particularly picky, and the idea is to keep the price down, that's a very reasonable choice.
Now that accessibility is far more important than the subtle differences between operating systems, if you like. I mean, theoretically, if you wanted to get a bigger or better television for other people, you could get a Fire Stick, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And plug that into a different
then,
TV.
if you're trying to get into settings and stuff like that, and you want to do it on your own, I think you made a good choice there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's not particularly worried about having a full Atmos speaker setup. 5.1 is the goal.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Sure. But we need to keep in mind that he wants to be able to fully control the AV receiver. And with his visual impairment, that means being able to use an iPhone app or a PC connection with a screen reader. And he would like to be able to run room correction of some kind and manually adjust speaker settings if desired. Mm-hmm. He also thinks he'd like to add a pair of outdoor speakers at a later date, so having a Zone 2 pre-out would be a very nice thing.
Fair.
So with all those very interesting, very unique requirements, for the AV receiver, he's shortlisted the Denon X1800H, the Yamaha RX A2A, Onkyo TX NR6100, or Sony STR-AN 1000. Any one of those stand out as the obviously best choice in our opinion.
Boy, howdy, yes.
Yes, so he's Rob chomping at the bit to tell you which one of those is the best. And it's the first one we came through.
It's the first one you mentioned. I'm absolutely going to say that you should go with a Denon X1800H. I'm also going to suggest, since you're in Canada, you can order it from Gibby's and take advantage of Gibby's is akin to like how Accessories for Less we always talk about in the US. They work directly with Denon and Marantz. They get a direct B stock with a full manufacturer's warranty, not a 90-day limited warranty or something like that.
That's how you do it.
You can save some money. In this case, $400.
How about
which is
that?
Nothing to sneeze at. You can get a X1800H from Gibby's. It is B stock, but it's as good as new, and you're still getting a full warranty for $680 instead of 1,100 Canadian dollars. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. A receiver is something I definitely would not be afraid to get B stock with a full warranty. And in fact, that's what I did with our last receiver. So yeah go for that.
And Gibby's is great to work with. So if you've never bought from them before, I think you'll be very pleased going to them and doing things that way. Now, so here's the thing. I'm actually relying on some former AVRant listeners who are also visually impaired who have made their comments about using the accessibility features. It used to be the case. We were told years ago that, at least for the person who told us about this, they preferred Onkyo's interface at the time. But Onkyo then updated things, changed their apps, and did things, and like, it's not as easily accessible anymore as it used to be. Yamaha has always been not the greatest as far as accessibility goes. So with the Denon, there is a full-on separate app that just controls the Denon as if it were a smartphone remote. Totally works with a screen reader. There were a few little, what would you call it? Like, issues going down the list in exactly the order that a visually impaired person might prefer to do so, but it was like, it's usable. It might take you a little while to get used to some of the quirks of it, but you can do so. More than that, though, it's going to be really important that you're going with Odyssey and the Odyssey Editor app. Because if you want to be able to do full tuning, EQ tuning, that is going to be the best solution for you by far. And so that comes out of the box, no extra charge with the X1800H, and you can get the Odyssey Editor app. It's a separate app, but you'll be able to use that on your phone with a screen reader and do a full Odyssey tuning, and that is absolutely the way that you should go, because the Onkyo 6100 doesn't have Dirac to begin with, and I can't imagine trying to do Dirac with a screen reader. I cannot imagine the pain that would be trying to do suffering. It. No. And then, the Sony has the AN1000 very basic auto setup, and then the Yamaha has YPOW, but it's just not as accessible. So I think the X1800H easily stands out, and use the apps. That's going to be your best way. They are separate apps, right? It's the Denon Control app and it's the Odyssey Editor app, but simple as that.
And just that wonderful B stock savings. Yeah. I just love it so much. For the subwoofer, he's leaning towards the RSL Speedwoofer 10E, but he also noticed the WIM Sub Pro. Any thoughts on either of those? And as you can tell, I get sarcastic when I see like brand names and names of things that are just too difficult. Quit trying to be so cute. What is that? WIM.
This was clearly price based, I think, like trying to find good specs at sort of the lower prices. I'm not sure why you'd go with the WIM sub if you have no other WIM in your system, which this isn't going to be. Not that I think it's a bad way to go necessarily, but it probably wouldn't be the top choice. Now, I really do like the RSL Speedwoofers. If you could, I would go with the Speedwoofer 10S Mark II. It is superior to the 10E. It's clear he was going for the 10E for the price point. But once you import that thing into Canada, it is just not the good deal that it is in the States. It is still ever so slightly less expensive than the two that I'm going to mention. But again, I'm like, if you want to be able to take full advantage, which is clear that everything that he said in his email is like, he's visually impaired, but he wants to be able to dig into all the settings of everything that he owns.
Of course.
For that reason, I feel fairly strongly that you should go to Summit Hi-Fi, which is a Canadian retailer, Canadian online retailer. They have a US outlet, but Summit Hi-Fi is based in Canada, and get a Tone Winner SWD 2000. First of all,
Okay.
it can play louder and lower than either of the subs that you were looking at before. Never a bad thing. $11.75 Canadian, but that includes the shipping cost. Does not include tax, but it does include the shipping cost, which means it's about $150 more than importing a Speedwoofer 10S Mark II, even though it's only $500 US. It's like,
Wow.
once you do the FedEx shipping cost and the border fees and all of that nonsense, you're looking at $150 more. The thing about the tone winner is it has an app. It has an app that lets you access all of the settings that it can do rather than fiddling with controls on the back of the Tone Winner SWD2000.
Nice.
You got an app, and at a considerably lower price than buying SVS in Canada and using their app. So I'm like, all things considered, I think that's the one you should go for. Now, he's going to mention coming up that he's considering Polk Signature Elite. That would not be a terrible choice if you went with their 12-inch, the Polk Signature Elite ES12. Again, at Gibby's, they have B-Stock. They have open box.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about B-Stock on a sub either.
Yeah, which is saving you a couple $100 and bringing the price to basically $1,000 Canadian for the open box version of the Signature Elite ES12. So that would not be a bad choice, and it saves you some money over the tone winner, but you don't get an app with that one. And I think being able to fiddle with all of the settings that the tone winner lets you do, I think it's worth spending the money.
I think you would really enjoy that level of control. It'd be great.
Yeah.
As for speakers, since he is already familiar with Polk, he was considering the Bookshelf Signature Elite ES15 for the front, left, and right, along with the Monitor XT series center and surrounds. But those are definitely not his only options. He's thought of Fluence, Clips Reference Premiere 2, PSB Alpha, and of course, because of us, Ascend. Any guidance from us would be helpful. So what do we think makes sense for his speaker selection? I mean, definitely this is where he should put his money, right? Like,
yes, but he did state a budget, which is a reasonable budget, and I'd like to stay within it.
There we go.
And I've maybe spent a little bit extra on the subwoofer, but I think it's totally worth it. And I've saved a little bit of money on the AV receiver if you go with the B-Stock, which I think is totally the way to go. And so, yeah, like, obviously I think highly of Ascend, but so you're not going to care about the very plain black kind of big box black looks, but maybe your wife does care about that. Maybe she doesn't care so much about how the TV picture quality is, but maybe she's like, those are just some very plain big black boxes. And you mentioned the Polk Signature Elite, and it's like part of the appeal of those is that they're really good looking. They're a little bit compact and they're really good looking. I think those are a very solid choice, right? So he was pointing out the Polk Signature Elite ES15 bookshelf speakers. That's the ones that comes with the 5 1/4 inch woofer size. They have one that's got a smaller 4-inch and one that's got a larger 6.5 inch, but that is a reasonable one. Again, this is all from Gibby's. You could order like everything except for the subwoofer from Gibby's and put together a nice little package deal. So that would be a very reasonable way to go. I very much dislike the idea of getting a completely different series of center speaker. I would go ahead and pony up the little bit of extra money to stick with the Signature Elite at the ES30 center speaker. Now again, Gibby's has it open box, save you $70, and this is open box. I see no reason that's a bad way to go. Also, your former speakers used to be towers. There's probably a reason you're thinking of going to bookshelves, and I have no problem with it, but they do have a nice pair of affordable towers in the Signature Elite series, the ES50s. It's the exact same tweeter and woofers across all of these speakers, which I also like. There's going to be no concerns about whether they're going to match and blend together well, and it's $1,000 for the pair of the ES50s, which means you could get that 5-speaker package and the subwoofer I recommended and the AV receiver I recommended within your budget. The nice thing is if you do that all at Gibby's, there is a bundle discount price.
How about that?
Yeah, so if you get the towers, the bookshelves I mentioned, and the center, you're at $14.95. That's if you're going with the open box versions. If you also went with the Polk Signature Elite subwoofer that I mentioned, you're at basically $2,500 or $2,584 if you go for no open box versions in there. So yeah, you combine that with the $600 some odd AV receiver and then the $500 TV, and you've definitely hit your budget. Now, I did want to mention an alternative because we get such a good deal on Paradigm speakers in Canada. Being a Canadian company, Paradigm really does a good deal on their speakers. So for right around a very similar price, again, we're sticking with Gibby's here, but you can get their monitor series, the SE3000 towers with the SE2000 center and the SE Atom bookshelf speakers. Again, all of the drivers are identical across all of these speakers. So it's, perfect timbre matching here. And that bundle of 5 speakers is $1,460 or $1,470 rather, Canadian dollars. And then you pair it up with that tone winner subwoofer and the Denon receiver, and I think you got a perfect system if you want to go that way.
No doubt that would be a heck of a system. Yeah. Excellent. So we are now into new questions for this week.
We left a lot from last week. Yeah, and you know what? We probably won't get to all of these, which is fine because some of these came in later anyway, but we'll hit at least a couple.
Yeah, we'll hit at least a couple and then discuss our fun times together.
Yeah.
Jason says he's been listening for a long time. Excellent. It's already been about 4 years since the last time he asked us a bunch of questions back when he was planning to remodel his basement and create a dedicated theater. Well, it's finally time to write back and say thank you. It turned out great. And it's his favorite place in the house to escape from the outside world for a couple of hours. And his kids love the theater too. And he sent pictures, and boy, that's a good looking theater.
Isn't that lovely?
Let's be honest. That is a good looking theater. I like the red on gray.
Yeah.
That is a quality looking place. So before we get to his question, all those lovely pictures, let's talk about what he actually got. He went with a JVC DLA NZ7 projector, professionally calibrated now, Lumagen 4246 18G external video processor, a Stewart film screen, ST130 G4 Ultra Perf screen material, and a Seymour AV 120-inch 16:9 Premiere frame with acoustically transparent screen masking.
Yeah, so he didn't go for the Seymour AV screen itself. He went for a Stewart film screen material, but put it in a Seymour AV frame with the motorized masking.
Sounds nice. 2 rows of Palliser, am I saying that right? Palliser audio recliners with 4 seats in each row. The front row gets a 54-degree field of view. Croson MA tactile transducers, 1 for each seat, powered by a Behringer NX6000 amplifier. GIC acoustic panels with additional R30 insulation hidden behind the screen. Denon AVR A10H receiver with the paid upgrade to Dirac Art. Buckeye Hypex Encore NC252 MP 4-channel amp powering his front 3 speakers. 3 Power Sound Audio TV 1813 subwoofers tuned with a pair of mini DSP 2x4 HD units running bass EQ from the AVS forum. Revel F36 towers, 3 of them across the front, hidden behind his screen. With all kinds of neat padding behind it. Right?
That's the extra insulation.
Wonderful. I love it. Revel M16 bookshelf front wides. So Rob is extra happy there are front wides.
That's right.
Revel S16 wall-mounted surrounds and surround backs. Revel C763L in-ceiling Atmos speakers, 4 of them. Kaleidoscape Strato 5. Apple TV 4K. Oppo 203. U-Goose.
Yep.
I slow down and get sarcastic when brand names are weird. U-Goose. AM6B Plus running Core Elec with a 40 terabyte Plex server. How about that? Mm-hmm. Harmony Elite remote controlling everything. Woo! That is a heck of a selection of equipment.
It's gorgeous.
That sounds like an amazing choice. I have no doubt that theater is just fun to be in. Of course it is. Looks good.
And he's like, hey, check out my black levels. He had to take the photo of that.
Right? Just inky black. You're in outer space.
Pretty darn nice.
It does look great. And so it's really cool to hear from somebody that took advice from the podcast, then came back later and said, look at this amazing thing that I did. So just like any home theater enthusiast, the room is never truly done, but he honestly doesn't have any plans for upgrades in the near future. It looks awful done to me. It sounds like
it's about as close as a home theater gets to being done.
He has kept an eye on Power Sound Audio, though, and he noticed their newer line of speakers that has been designed with Klipple optimization. According to their own Klipple measurements, they now measure quite well both on and off axis while still using compression horn-loaded tweeters with high speaker sensitivity. He's read the customer raves and seen some of the forum discussions where people claim that speakers of this type, JTR and JBL's horn-loaded speakers fall into this category as well, subjectively sound more cinematic, even if you have enough power and headroom to drive lower sensitivity speakers to the same SPL. He's seen some questionable claims about high sensitivity speakers providing more rapid transient peaks and better microdynamics, whatever that means, or that they simply sound easier to drive.
Right, yeah.
So he wants to ask us, have we heard speakers of this type? And if so, is there any truth to the claims? Do we have any thoughts as to whether replacing his Revel speakers with compression, tweeter, high sensitivity speakers would result in an audible improvement? My goodness, that's a lot of thinking for a person with an amazing home theater.
No kidding, right?
At some point, like, I would shut my brain off and just, this is my home theater for a while. Just stop reading about everything, right? My guess is he would not hear much of a difference. He has made such well-balanced selections in this home theater. He's treated it so well. I can't imagine you thinking, holy cow, I've achieved a new level of home theater that I never knew before. I doubt it would be worth thinking about.
So, I mean, I'm not going to make the claim that it would be literally impossible to hear some sort of difference.
There's always some little difference you could hear.
Right. Yeah. It's like that truly blind comparison, no fudging around or anything like that. The notion that you change all of your Revel speakers for power sound audio speakers, and in a truly blind comparison, you can actually genuinely tell them apart from one another. I'm like, that could be possible. I'm not going to put that beyond the realm of possibility. But the stuff about that they're somehow faster in transient peak, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, microdynamics, that's when people say, oh, I can hear the difference when it's playing quieter, and it's got to be because they're so sensitive. No.
That's a word that somebody made up to justify how they're pretending they can hear a difference that other people can't hear.
The difference they're hearing is horn. You're hearing the difference that a horn makes. That can be the case. And sometimes... So to be completely technically correct, like it's not that it literally doesn't show up whatsoever in the measurements, but it can be really hard to spot, right? Because, I mean, no speaker is truly putting out a literal flat line in its frequency response. There are these little differences, little squiggles that sometimes show up, and sometimes from seat to seat they show up differently, and sometimes when you're just slightly moving your head while you sit, they show up differently. So, like... horns make a difference. It's just like we wouldn't ever use a horn if it didn't make any sort of a difference. Horns make a difference. They do change the directivity of the speaker's sound. That is the entire point of putting a driver inside of a horn. I mean, look, the Revel speakers use a waveguide as well on their tweeter. That is, in a way, a little bit of a horn that's going on there, but it's not as same as the deep, flat-sided horn of the power sound audio speakers. So you would have to really get into the nitty-gritty of the measurements, but that's where the audible difference in sound is coming from, and that is something that I would say it is possible. And because almost all commercial movie theater speakers are horn-loaded speakers, there can be the instance where you're like, well, that sounds a little bit more like my local Cineplex than a broad dispersion speaker like the Revel speakers are. So it's not that there's nothing to that statement, right? Like, I can see where someone says, even in a truly blind comparison, it actually does remind me more of my local Cineplex when I'm listening to these horn-loaded, high-efficiency speakers. It's not because of the sensitivity in this case, right? That would only be the case if you can't get to the same SPL. That's not what's going on. It's not that horn-loaded speakers are somehow clearer at lower volumes because of microdynamics. But there can be an audible difference that the horn is making to the sound. And if that reminds you more of a full-size cinema, I'm not going to say there's nothing to that, but I don't think you should do it. I think you should stick with your Revel speakers because you're not sitting far enough away that you're running out of SPL headroom.
So, by the way, someone has knocked on our front door and my wife is politely trying to get them to go away. So I've been riding the mute button on my mixer, and hopefully you didn't hear all of that. If I seemed a little distracted over the past 60 seconds or so.
Is it something you need to go and deal with, or you're all right?
Sounds like it's done now.
Okay.
She got rid of them.
Okay, good for her.
She's nicer than me. No thanks, boom, is generally my response. That sounds like that was fine. Yes, she has texted me to say that was annoying. So Chris has questions. Let's move on to Chris. Chris has a Hisense U3 TV. In the past, there were a handful of times when a countdown timer would show up in the top right corner of the screen, and if he didn't press a button on the TV remote within 30 seconds, it would put itself into standby. Interesting. Just a countdown timer came up. Lately, it's been doing this a lot more frequently. The TV's getting tired. He's using a Harmony remote to control his system. So whenever the countdown timer appears, he has to quickly switch to controlling the individual device rather than his current activity, since the buttons in his Harmony activity aren't set to control the TV itself. He is not using HDMI CEC, and he doesn't even have a physical HDMI ARC connection. If he uses the TV's built-in apps, he relies on an optical audio connection to send the audio signal from the TV to his AV receiver. Naturally, he figured this is a sleep timer in the TV's settings, but he has checked, and every setting he can find for any sort of timer are all turned off already. Yeah. What's even more puzzling is that it is not consistent at all. He leaves the TV on all day for his cats, and sometimes it stays on all day as intended, but other days it powers off on its own, sometimes in as little as 10 or 15 minutes. So, do we have any idea how to prevent this from happening? What an interesting, specific problem. Rob, do we know anything that could possibly be going on here?
I mean, I'm going to throw a scattershot bunch of ideas at you that you didn't mention in your email. I'm not saying you didn't already check these. It's just, I can only go by the information that I was provided, and anything that I read through the manual. That's the only way I can try and come up with settings that actually exist on their TV, because AI is going to steer you astray. So number one thing that popped out, I'm kind of going in the order that these showed up in the manual, of course. It does mention that if no signal is detected for several minutes, the TV is going to auto power off after a 30-second countdown. So that shouldn't happen if you're using the built-in apps, but I'm like, do you have an external streaming device? Could you maybe try that? Because maybe it's just a glitch in the operating system software where it's like, it's just not detecting that the built-in, it's just going like, built-in app, well, I'm not detecting an external signal, so I'm going to go ahead and power off if nobody does an input on me for a while.
It's really weird,
something along those lines. I'm not saying that's what it is, but heck, if it solves the problem, maybe that's a cheap solution, right? It just be throw a Roku stick into one of the inputs and use that instead of the built-in apps, and if it solves this, then not so bad. Second one, parental controls. This thing does have it still has a V chip built into it. I can't believe that that's still a thing.
Wow.
But if that's on and you're just letting stuff play, if somehow you've activated parental controls, it'll block content, at which point it becomes a black screen, at which point it says I have no signal, at which point after a few minutes it turns off after 30 seconds. So
well, there's certain content you don't want cats seeing. They might get ideas.
I think this is highly unlikely, but heck, why not check it? Because it's literally just a setting in your TV. See if the parental controls are turned on. I mean, obviously, my first thought was also that it's a sleep timer, but I believe you when you say you check the sleep timer setting and it's off, because I mean the only options are minutes up to 90 minutes as the max. One that could definitely be worth checking. I'm betting that whenever you use an external device that you've changed the picture mode, but sometimes the built-in apps, if that's all you're using, they don't all automatically switch to your preferred picture mode, and the default picture mode is energy saving. So I'm like, is it possible that you're just throwing on the built-in YouTube app, but it's actually still in the energy-saving picture mode? And I don't know why that would actually put the TV into standby, but anything that's called energy-saving, I'm always suspicious of when it comes to turning things off. So I'm like, just double-check the picture mode, make sure it's not an energy-saving. HDMI control, right? Make sure it's not just turned off in the Hisense TV, but that it's also turned off in every single thing in your system, because it is still connected via HDMI to your AV receiver, not to the HDMI ARC port, but it is still connected via HDMI, which means that if there's anything in your system that still uses HDMI CEC and it is going into standby, like say your cable box or a streaming stick or something else is going into standby, and then your TV's like, oh, well, I better turn off too because of HDMI CEC, even though you turned it off because you use a Harmony remote. One that I think is maybe something's going on, the network settings. You didn't mention checking the network settings, and it does have a Wake on LAN and a Wake on network and a Wake on cast system, and it's like, I don't know why it would be a 30-second countdown, but could it be some kind of network signal, right? I'm throwing darts at the board here, but
is there a sleep on LAN?
Right, exactly, yeah. One that is cropped up is if it is connected to the internet, it automatically sets its date and time, and sometimes just manually setting the date and time and not letting it auto update the date and time does weird things, including there are other timers in the U6G besides the sleep timer. There is a power on and a power off timer, and those are under the device preferences section, which is completely separate from where the sleep timer is. So maybe check that, although it should be consistent if those are set.
It really should.
But if the date and time is doing something weird, again, throwing darts at the board. So make sure the usage mode has been set to home and not store, because that's a thing that only crops up the first time you turn the TV on, but you can dig into it in the device preferences under the usage mode. Make sure the screensaver's turned off. That's also in the device preferences. And then finally, if none of that works, I would try a factory reset and see if I can start from scratch. But
the old reboot trick.
Those are my ideas. I don't know. Do you think we can make it through Joe's and stick around for a little while?
Yeah, we can make it through Joe and then talk about
that'll be it. Yeah, let's
other
do that.
stuff. Okay, let's make it through Joe. Can we get through you, Joe?
Yes.
Joe wrote to us previously after he had purchased a new Emotiva differential reference amplifier and hooked it up to his Marantz AV8805A Pre-Pro. The new amp went into protection mode when he was playing it loud, and even though he said he had made sure there were no stray speaker wires, because that's the first thing Rob will tell you every time, going to any of his Aperion Veris Grand V8 speakers, we still said that a single stray strand of speaker wire, possibly on the amplifier side, possibly on the speaker side, was still the most likely culprit. Well, he's done some troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
He connected completely different left and right speakers. He disconnected the new 2-channel amp entirely and put his 5-channel amp in its place, powering the front, left, and right speakers. He tried brand new speaker wire. He tried different XLR cables. He tried not using any XLR cables at all and using RCA cables instead. He tried one speaker at a time, and no matter what, the front right channel would eventually trip in some way and put whatever amplifier was connected into protection mode. Wow.
Right.
It does not happen instantly. It seems to take 10 to 20 minutes of loud playback. If he unplugs everything and plugs it back in, it works fine, but then trip again in a shorter amount of time. So it seems as though it's heat related. But he has AC infinity fans on everything and nothing is getting noticeably hot. So at this point, it's got to be an internal fault with the Marantz Pre-Pro's front right channel, right? Do we think it could possibly be anything else? That's compelling argument.
Yeah.
He's not thrilled about the idea of either replacing or having to get his Marantz AV8805A repaired. So before he commits to that, he does have an older Yamaha RZ820 receiver in storage. If he were to dig that out, do we know if it can act as a pre-pro and allow him to test if his amps, wires, cables, and speakers are all okay, and it's just the Marantz that has the problem? That's not a terrible idea, right?
Definitely not. I mean, even easier than that would be to just completely disconnect everything from the front right channel of the Marantz and try, a different channel. Just take the front left channel and plug that into the amplifier and obviously the cables that are all attached and see if anything happens. That still doesn't necessarily mean that that's not actually the fault of something internal to the front right channel, though, right? Because what you're describing is like, maybe that's like, it's literally on the circuit board, right? And that is still heating up. And even if you have cooling fans, at some point it's reaching a temperature where there's some short that's happening. So yeah, it still could be that it's just an internal fault of the Marantz. I absolutely, at this point, after all the troubleshooting you described, I'm like, I can't think of what else it could be. So I do think it would be a very good idea to dig that Yamaha out. It does have a full set of pre-outs, thank goodness. So yeah, it's got a full set of pre-outs on the back. Obviously, it would be a bit of a hassle, but you would be able to tell quite conclusively. It's like if that Yamaha connects and powers everything absolutely just fine and nothing shuts down, it's like, well, then it's got to be the Marantz Pre-Pro. Yeah,
there you go.
That's where we'd be. Thank you for doing like the thorough troubleshooting, because I mean, there is no, you've got to isolate, right? One variable at a time. It's the only way we can really nail down what the heck is going on here. But yeah, at this point, I think it's something on the circuit board itself, which if there were a repair to be done, that would just be a replace, just completely replace the motherboard if that's what's going on in there. I'm not saying that's definitely what it is, but that's what it's sounding like at this point.
But the great thing is, if you do need to send that for repair, you now have a long list of things you've already tried, and they will take you seriously, and they will very likely jump right to replacing that board, as opposed to, all the tests they might normally run.
We
you
can
might
hope,
save them
but
some time. Yeah, you can hope. But definitely your last step is to try the Yamaha. And
yeah, for sure.
It's a free experiment. See what happens.
I think it would be worth it. Yeah.
No, but that sounds like good old-fashioned science being done. Way to go, Joe.
Exactly. So our good friends Sasi and Gurinder are still on the list, and I'll have you on the list for first up next week. But we're going to take a few minutes here. Try not to go too crazy long. I've got like a slideshow of some of the photos that Lee took, and I took a couple of photos too. So anything you're embarrassed about, just let me know. But I don't think you should be, because everybody looks happier. And I don't know what you want to say about things, and I think we just go through it. These are just in chronological order, so I think it makes sense.
So first of all, Rob was part of our choice in vacation location, because it was a mix of like, we'd like to get out of the country. Like, sure. There's part of us that are like, we'd really like to get out of the country, but just kind of wanted to go to another country, because we've only done that a couple of times in our lives.
And you have been to Canada before, but not to the West Coast.
Right. Our only trip to Canada was when we were visiting Detroit, and just to go touch Canada, we went to Windsor. And we went over there and just like got some food, got some coffee, took pictures from the other side, So I've got, a lovely shot of the GM building across the water, So it was just for fun. And, everything. I remember on that trip back, that would have been 2008, I think, somewhere around in there, a long time ago. We drove to Detroit. And so as we pulled up to the border crossing, the guard there did say he saw the Alabama license plate and worried that there would be issues.
Oh no.
And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Dumb old Alabama people pull up, but we whipped out passports and could speak English well. So it worked out just fine. But everybody's very nice. And that carried over all the way to this year, even though there have been things occur that I would think would make people even more testy. I will say that Canada was lovely. From the moment we got to the airport, we thought there would be like this interview for customs, with lots of questions. Right. But after just, zipping through the line, we get up there and a guy just, grabs the passport, looks at your face, looks at your ID, and goes, okay, have a good time. I'm like, that's it? Great. Because we did fill things out ahead of time.
Yes, that
online.
Helps. That's a huge help.
But it also makes me question, what is a boarding pass after all if I'm checking in the day before? What is customs if I'm answering questions online before and I just, skate through? So, and Rob had told me ahead of time that sometimes, depending on where you're from and how it hits you, that some people in the retail or service industry in Canada might seem a little short. Like they'll be pleasant, answer your question, but then they're not very conversational. I just found everybody great. I am one, no surprise, to get in conversations and waste time with people that I'll never see again in my life.
Surprise, everyone. You'd never guess from having heard Lee on this podcast before.
You'd never know that I'll stand there and make friends with somebody that I'm never going to see again, ever. But no, everybody was great. So I'm glad we chose Vancouver. And for those who aren't terribly familiar, Vancouver is just pretty from any angle. And we figured it would be, because we had it on a short list and we looked at things and we watched live streams on YouTube and kind of were like, man, that looks pretty nice.
So I am going to jump in and say, you and your wife Heather did get very lucky. You've heard about rainy Vancouver, and literally the day after Lee and Heather left, it went down to 9 degrees Celsius and rained all day. So I mean, that is something that, because obviously you were booking flights and hotels and stuff like a month in advance. So you
More than that,
you can't know exactly what the weather is going to be like for a 5-6 day span. So they absolutely lucked out. It was like sunny and clear. You got a few little drops of rain on the one day, but it absolutely wasn't what I would call rain. And then a couple of the days were like really clear, which we'll see in some of these photos, which we'll have to race through here. But
sparklingly beautiful Canada. So to go to a beautiful place, like literally the landscape of Vancouver is crazy.
Why don't we start showing some photos real quick? We'll get to some of these.
We're on an airplane, so if you're not watching on YouTube, I'll describe what you're seeing. And there is my adorable wife, Heather.
Yes,
So that's,
and you were taking a late flight, arriving very late. Yes,
I think we arrived in town a little earlier than expected. We arrived at 10:30 or 10:45 local time,
Right.
and we're showing a picture of how small I am and how big the seatbelt is on an American flight. So, and yes, I took pictures from the plane. I always do, even though nobody cares. Everybody knows what it looks like when you're looking out at an airplane.
Way down there were some wind turbines. You zoomed
you.
in. I didn't capture all the photos, so
Right.
but that was going
What's
on.
interesting is Rob's going to show you the pictures of mine that he found the most compelling.
Yes, pretty
So
much.
I don't
And
know
also,
if
it was kind of like I just wanted to grab tell the story as efficiently as possible. Was the way I went through these.
So the thing is, as you go through these pictures from the airplane, I love being in the air and I love airplanes, but I freaking hate airports and the process of flying.
Fair enough.
So I am always torn. I will drive. I think my limit is probably nowadays maybe the 10-hour range. I don't really like that 12 or 13-hour drive. But and then when we got, I think it was the second plane that was going to land in Canada had smaller seat belts. So
there's one.
Went from big old
two.
American seat belts to much smaller seat belts in the
hilarious.
airplane. Yeah, well, I'm not a big guy, but still, that was pretty funny. So yeah, we land very, very late.
Yes, indeed.
And that's okay. And we stayed in a hotel. We chose this ahead of time on Rob's recommendation as I think this is a part of town you'll like. Maybe I should back up and say, I was telling Rob that my favorite thing in a big downtown is please tell me the area that has the fancy, almost snobby coffee and has a little bit of artsy vibe and has the rainbow crossings painted on the ground. Okay. That's my kind of place in a big city.
And I instantly said, as a Vancouverite, you want to be in the West End, Lee.
Yeah, you want to be in the West End. You want Davies this way, and you want Denman. Is it the other direction?
Davie and Denman. That's where you want to be.
And so we're pretty much at the intersection of Davie and Denman. And
you
no
sure
kidding,
are.
A block away, I'm just hitting coffee shops and snacky bits and cool places, just like I asked for. So Rob could be a travel agent in another life.
Well, for this one very small localized area. But yes, staying at the Sylvia Hotel, which is a well-known hotel, been around for ages. They got ivy growing all over it, very distinctive.
It's a special and interesting little place. It's very old. I think they said it started as an apartment building in 1912.
That's right, yeah.
And it has no air conditioning, which is interesting for Americans. Yeah. But again, we're Americans from Alabama, so we didn't need a stitch of air conditioning. We just opened the window and everything was gorgeous.
Yes, and it is right on the beach. We didn't go far to take this photo from the Sylvia Hotel.
Dude,
You're right on the beach.
You really helped with this choice. First of all, let me say that the Sylvia, for some reason, attracts a crowd as old as the building. I think most of the people staying there were born in 1912. Yeah. So I couldn't tell if it made me feel old or made me feel young. But it was encouraging to go, okay, you can still travel when you're 600 years old. That's great. So I don't know why. I guess because it's a traditional hotel, they literally give you a physical key like the old days. Like room key with a keychain.
There you go.
And it's just adorable. And
it's not going to be for everybody, but from what Lee described, I'm like, I think you'll kind of dig it.
Yeah, I did kind of dig it. So the area there, yes, to walk out of your hotel room, cross one very low traffic street, and you're suddenly trees and beaches and grass and benches and perfect weather and cool breeze and
some colorful buildings,
ocean layout in front of you
stuff.
And mountains and colorful buildings. And as we walk around town, I'm just snapping pictures because everywhere I look is like, that's pretty. Well, that's pretty. Well, that's pretty. And, so we're also in a different time zone from us. So that helps me because I am a night owl and this made me where I could almost function at a normal human morning time. And so I got to go get breakfast in places and we found wonderful breakfasts. I don't guess everybody wants to know the exact name of every place we ate, but that's down Davies. You walk up a hill and
that's right. Yeah. And so, I mean, we know that Lee is a fan of electric vehicles and Vancouver has had electric buses for ages and ages and ages, but it wasn't battery powered. It is overhead trolley lines. So you saw some of the fun intersections. We got like the most complicated one much later, but spotted the overhead trolley lines for our electric buses that have been around for decades and decades in the downtown Vancouver.
Rob is in that industry. And that helped us very much too. So I was fascinated by everything. The first day, so we went straight to the hard stuff, right? Like I'm tired and I thought on the first day, maybe we should just walk around gently and enjoy ourselves. Instead, we just went straight to like a very touristy activity where you
Yes.
take a bike ride around Stanley Park, which is at the end of the peninsula of the city that sticks
That's
out
right.
into the water. And so rent bikes that aren't ours.
It is the Vancouver thing. If there's one thing, if you have one day in Vancouver, you're going to ride around the seawall at Stanley Park. That's what you're going to do.
Let me tell you, it's very touristy, but it is so gorgeous. So we hit, perfect weather, beautiful everything. I'm stopping too much to take
You
pictures.
found the most Canadian car that has ever existed.
Yeah, with a giant moose mounted on top and
That's right.
crazy hippie stuff painted all over it. Yeah, just gorgeous. I mean, I had to take a picture of that, and we went straight to totems.
Yep,
So we
totem
got to see
poles.
all the totem poles were lovely in the park there too, and everywhere you go. I was also finding it kind of cute that out in the middle of the water on like a barge-like structure is just a chevron.
Yep.
So
You
gas out in
got to
the water.
gas up the boat somewhere.
You do, and I just thought it was interesting that it was like a little gas station floating in the middle of everything. And
But it was also the mountain scenery that you noticed right away. So
right, I mean, again, everywhere you look is kind of pretty. Somehow, even the tankers look kind of pretty, and you've got airplanes flying around you, seaplanes taking
flip
off.
planes. Yep.
Oh man, just everywhere you look beautiful. So that ride around, and you get to see a lighthouse. Just you're seeing things that you just don't normally see. So we're like the goofy country bumpkins, just like, look at that, wow, look
But
at
I mean,
big old
you
bridge,
literally
wow.
are a tourist. You might as well see the sights.
Can't believe it, wow. And I actually got cold on that bike
Sure.
ride, and I'm sure Rob would laugh at that. But
No, honestly, no, because I mean, it wasn't that warm a day when you were here. It was like maybe low 20s, and then
maybe it was 21 of a high.
Exactly.
And we're in the shade and next to the water. I've got a
you're
hoodie
in the
on.
shade. You're right on the water. You're on bikes, so
Right.
yeah, definitely we have at least a sweatshirt on. Is no unusualness for you, even for a local.
I also suck at selfies, and bicycle helmets do nothing for me.
Especially rental, not exactly fitted
Right,
perfectly
so
for
that
you.
doesn't
but, yeah.
fit right. The bike didn't fit me right. I'm really good at riding a bike. I've got good balance on a bike, no problem.
Sure.
I can ride a skateboard and a scooter and roller skates. I can handle that. But that bike was uncomfortable.
But the seawall around Stanley Park, it's set up perfectly. You got a designated like bike area, and there's actually a little height difference for the walking area. The bikes are only allowed to go around in one direction, counterclockwise around the park. So
You
it's
have to, because you've got blind curves and a skinny
Yes,
lane for the bike,
yeah.
so you have to do that.
but it's well set up to allow you to go right around.
And so we're stopping, taking the same sort of little pictures of outcroppings and stuff like everybody does. But you know what? The crowd was not that bad. Even just looking up into the woods was cool.
And yeah, when we say park, right? Because I mean, Stanley Park, and if you've never been there, it's like it's a forest. It's not a
forest,
park.
yeah.
It's a forest.
So you're riding around the edge of this forest. And if we get to come again, I want to get up in the forested area more, because we're just,
But it's like you're immediately from forest to beach, because there's two beaches right along there. There's a lagoon along there, so you'll have like every type of thing. So the reason why we're a photo of a bike seat here.
Right. Let me just say before that, the picture of the beach, I hated to be like a creeper taking pictures of people on the beach, but I was fascinated, again, as a Southerner, that there are people in their bathing suits on a beach in Canada in this weather. And I'm like, ain't no way. Maybe if I'm laying in the sun, it would be comfortable with the cool breeze on me, but I would never touch that water.
Okay.
Do it.
It's because the sun is out, Lee. We have to take our opportunities when they come. It's not like it literally rains here all the time. It's very nice weather sometimes, but it's just, it does rain. So when the rain's not here, we're going to be out in the sun.
Well, the low tonight here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama is higher than the high was that day that I saw people on the beach.
Yeah, sounds
Just
about
to
right.
give you some clue. Anyway, so that the reason there's a picture of the bike seat is because it was uncomfortable. The bad thing had not happened yet. It was just uncomfortable. It was pressing in private no-no areas in a way that was not good, because I have a softer seat on my
rental bike.
rental bike. And I adjusted it, all the way down. But as we were just about done with the bikes and we're go to return them, and just as I'm starting to get off the bike, and I'm talking about, I can see the store I'm returning the bike to, that bike seat twists almost 90 degrees to the left, twists my body. And so I come down on the left and I pinch my left foot between the concrete and the bike pedal. And then I come all the way down, have to catch myself with my hands. Now, it wasn't the end of the world. I didn't tumble. I didn't get cut or anything like that.
And thankfully you were still able to walk in that, but
But now we've double hurt the no-no areas. And now we've pinched a foot in a way that's not good for that particular foot. We've got the Achilles heel. And I stand on up because it's not the end of the world. And of course, I'm a man and I'm fine. right? But that fateful bicycle seat did affect the rest of the trip.
It's such a shame. Such a shame.
Now, it didn't ruin it. Because again, I'm a big, tough man, Rob.
Right.
So I handled the situation, but it did slow the journey back down Denman all the way. And it took more resting times after that, and it was ouchy. But it was worth it because everything is gorgeous. And again, here in Alabama, we do get some geese, but you'll see pictures of geese, and we're back at the beach again. And geese here, they honk over your head and go away in their V formations. And every now and then, if you're near water, you will see some land here, but it's just not a big thing. But there on that beach and all over the area we stayed, geese are just part of the land.
Oh,
They're
yes.
everywhere.
And they do not fear human beings at all.
They do not. You are like the walruses on those busy walrus beaches or seals, they don't care what you are. They just know that you might have snacks, and it was fun to watch these geese aggressively insist on some snacks when people tried to have picnics and stuff.
And you got to be mindful that there is goose poop everywhere.
Man, and because at first I was like, who's letting their cat poop everywhere? What? Oh, it's the geese.
It's the geese.
So we make a walk. I think it was the next day we're going to Granville Island, which is a very touristy thing to do. So we made a long walk down the beach and looked at various things. And we're like, ooh, what kind of construction is that with all these logs? Yeah. Just everything was so pretty, Rob. Everything was, and if people are seeing the pictures, every direction, the sky was gorgeous. I love seeing people's little stacked rocks and stuff.
Little tiny Inukshooks that people make on the rocky beach themselves. Yeah,
that was just great. I kind of want to do that, but we didn't really have time for that. And so we went and got a little boo-boo tiny ferry to go across to Granville Island. And what we thought was funny is there were people behind us, older than us and a little slower. And we got on the boat, and the guy just left. And I'm like, we're not going to wait on those people?
It's because there's another one literally in 4 minutes, so nobody's waiting that long.
Right. I felt kind of bad, though. It's like just me and Heather on the boat, and he just pulled away, and we're chatting, and it's a
very
fun.
short little ride, but it's fun.
It's fun. Like, I kind of wanted to be on that boat longer. It was such a fun little tiny bouncy boat, and I dug it. So it's funny what you enjoy as a tourist that people locally just take for granted and shrug about.
We love the little, we got the Aqua Bus, we got the Falls Creek Ferry, we got the Granville Island ferries, and they all piddle around that area there.
Right. Now, I don't know how many pictures you chose from Granville, but it's a fun little place. People are out, playing music, and this guy with his Zamfir pan flute was not that great, but they had a donut place called Lee's.
Yeah,
Lee's
how can
Donuts.
Lee not go to Lee's Donuts?
So I showed up and told him I was Lee. It didn't make any difference. I didn't get a free donut. But the sign with oddly worded sign there. The donut was great, by the way. I love a powdered donut, and this was like a super soft, perfect, cakey powdered donut at Lee's Donuts. And then I just took pictures of colorful, pretty things. There was a lot of crafting supplies on Granville Island.
The arts district. Yeah, Granville Island used to be a big industrial place. All of the industry stuff kind of got shut down at one point. It just became an arts district. The whole thing is an arts district.
I was really surprised. It was store after store of supplies. And at one point, as you go through this, I'll explain if anything needs explaining with picture-wise, but at one point, there's so many stores, so many shops, so many interesting places. We laughed so hard when a little family walked past us, and a little girl who was maybe about 4 or 5 was crying, going, I don't want to go in another store.
Yeah, okay, I get you.
Because mom is like checking out every other store, and this little kid can't take it anymore.
I was happy as a local to see that when you took the picture, they fixed the light because the R on the Granville Island had been out for so long.
Oh, okay. No, it looked great. And we couldn't help but take a picture under that bridge, and the following pictures of the little creek and all the lovely foliage and everything. Because
and I don't think you got over, we got a little bit of the small marina that's there, but there's actually a whole section of boat houses where people just live full time. And I don't think you quite got over that
everything.
section.
But that was the prettiest under a bridge I've ever been to. Like, I've been to places where under overpasses and stuff were fixed up a little bit, but that wins the award for prettiest under a bridge.
That is the Granville Bridge. There we go. We're right underneath it.
Right. And again, when you come from a small city, every angle of a big city is cool to look at, and I like geometrical patterns. And then there's what is it called? The laughing...
Yeah, the laughing statues. Yeah,
Laughing statues. They were just a joy. And of course,
right by your hotel, really, really close.
Oh, right,
and
close. And
they've dressed them up in jerseys for FIFA because we are hosting some of the FIFA football games, and yeah, they've dressed them up in jerseys there.
and you can't not do a selfie with the laughing statues.
That's right.
Right. So on we go.
Yeah. Next day, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
When you're,
The next day was going to Grouse Mountain, and because I said I wanted to go way up high and look at pretty stuff. And Vancouver is a perfect place to do that. Grouse Mountain. By the way, we could have taken public transit, but we looked at Uber, and it was only $17 to get there, and it saved you enormous amounts of time.
It's not that far. It's like about 20, 25 minutes by car. So yeah, not that far.
It was really fast, and our driver was super nice. And again, I'm very chatty with everybody. The driver was great, and we discussed tourism. So I wanted to take that gondola ride up high and look at beautiful things from up high. Beautiful, beautiful day. I didn't even mind the crowded gondola.
It was crowded. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. Middle of the week, you had a crowd in there. But you still got some shots on the way up and then some on the way down.
So if there are people locally who wait to go up there when the weather's beautiful, that would have been when to go.
Yep. Yeah, you went on the perfect day. As we'll see, there's a shot that I'll describe as a local means a lot to us. So.
Oh, right on. So looking back at the city and the water and just every angle is gorgeous, and me struggling to see if I can get, photographer quality pictures with my stupid cell phone. And you can't really do it, but I'm documenting every moment because it's so unique and different. And finally you get way up in the sky. and there are restaurants up there. There are buildings and there's gift shops and all kinds of things like that up there. I was a little surprised to see that it was just so much construction happening. I guess that just because
I didn't
of the weather.
know about. I didn't know to warn you.
It's okay.
So yeah, that was unfortunate. I mean, it is obviously we're past the winter season, but we're not full swing into the summer season. So it's a little bit of in between, and they're probably doing a lot of prep for the summer season. Yeah.
But it didn't harm the experience. I was just kind of surprised to see it look like a place that was almost half built. But yes, every angle beautiful. Just and if you're watching the YouTube, you will see lovely red chairs. The colors, man, we're popping colors, saturated colors of the sky down to the lake that's formed from a dam.
Yeah, if you want to know what a straight is, well, there it is. That's a straight.
Exactly. And again, I suck at selfies. I try so hard.
We got to have some shots of you in there, so we know you were actually there enjoying. But yeah, you got zip liners up there, which you didn't partake in, but they were up there.
I didn't partake, and we've done zip lining in North Carolina, and this would be good. But again, I was ouchy from the day before.
Indeed.
And I really didn't feel like putting the straps you have to put in those uncomfortable no-no places. Nothing was touching that area again.
You did apparently enjoy that. They got the single wind turbine up there.
Yeah, one wind turbine up there. You would think there'd be more, but it's fine. Now, when we went up there, I wanted to and there's a picture of me standing next to the thing.
You are tall enough, thank goodness.
I am in fact over a meter tall. So you may not can tell in my booster seat on this podcast, but we went up there and I wanted to take the ski lift that takes you all the way to the tippy top, but the ski lift wasn't running until we were getting ready to leave. So maybe the ski lift people just didn't show up and couldn't get to work on time. But and there's bears up there. There sure are.
There's a couple of orphaned 2 male bears, grizzly bears, which would never be the case in normal circumstances.
Right.
But they were orphaned as young cubs, and they were brought here as kind of a sanctuary. So we got Grinder and Kula are 2 male grizzly bears that are living together. Very unusual circumstance.
Right. And so they have their alternative lifestyle, and they're up in the woods. I did get them in a picture. They were very close, and it was fun to see their giant murder claws and fuzzy ears.
They were kind of just lazing about a little bit, but that's probably better.
And as the phrase goes, if not friends, why friend-shaped?
Indeed. Yeah, they do look very fuzzy and huggable. They're grizzly bears. Don't do that.
They just look like you could hug them, but also that breath would stink just before you died. And yeah, I love big fluffy animals. So what you going to do? You got to take the touristy pictures. And
so here we go. Yeah, this shot, I got to tell you, so you got a shot of Mount Baker from the top of Grouse.
Baker, right.
And it's like, that is how we judge our air quality in Vancouver. We're like, if you can see Mount Baker, it's clear and the sky is fantastic. So you went up there on the perfect day.
Now, at first, I'm like, can I see Mount Rainier? That I have heard that on a very, very clear day, you can see a tippy bit of Mount Rainier, and I could not make that out. So that tells you where you're at. You're at one of the clearest days you're going to get up
That's
there.
right.
And like some of these pictures just look like rolling hills, but I'm telling you, you're very aware that you are way, way up high. Ears pop going up, ears pop coming down. And one picture you're showing is where, since the ski lift wasn't running, I did want to walk up the hill. There's a gravel road you can walk up. So I walked up, and I didn't want to get trapped in a situation where like, oh, I feel fine. Let me keep walking up this hill. And then you get too far up the hill, and now you got to come back down and you're worn out. So I think I could have gone farther and kind of wish I did. But Heather gets more uncomfortable the higher up you go. So bless her, she did so good in the gondola. There's one in the gondola when you go over the towers, it sways back and forth, and everybody does kind of a sarcastic little ooh on the gondola. The whole crowd goes ooh, and man, it's just what a view! What a beautiful day!
Just a picturesquely portrait shot.
Yes, me and my mighty proud profile selfie there, looking over the city. But when you're up there, it's so cool and comfortable. It was that day. Who knows what it feels like on other days? As far as I know, Grouse Mountain is always perfect and lovely.
Yes, your one experience. It's fun that you're glad you got this shot, because it's like you can see where the water went through. Right, you cut this V shape through the landscape, and it's just interesting seeing the history that's right there on display. Yeah,
you can tell what happened in this landscape, and also interesting. We're small people, and they gave us very tall beers, and we drank that at altitude. So how
Canadian beer is not weak, man. Canadian beer has some kick to it.
Right? This was a peach sour, and we ordered a couple of beers and a bratwurst up at a restaurant up there, and what a great view. I mean, we felt so luxurious. We felt so fancy and felt really relaxed after a beer at, what is that? It's, how high up are we? We're at 1,100 meters?
I should know off the top of my head, but I don't.
I think
it is a mountain. You're not going to mistake it for just a hill.
It's 1,100 meters, from the ocean that you're seeing. Does give a sense of wow.
Yeah, because Vancouver is right at sea level, so it's just pure elevation.
All right, so you feel like a bird up in the sky. And I took some pictures of everything up there. Not all of it did we partake in, but they had a little show and a talk about owls. And Heather especially loves owls, and we have owls around here where we live. Oh, it's so fun to be able to get that close to one. And I did learn some things. I learned some differences and some stuff I didn't know before. And so...
And they got the Olympic torch up there from the 2010 games.
Yeah. I forgot about that. And I saw the torch right in front of me. How exciting is that?
Came back down and I visited Canada Place. I don't think you went into Canada Place, but...
We didn't. It was just, again, the amount of time we had. But the shuttle from Grouse Mountain will take you to Canada Place.
Yeah.
And since we kind of wanted to see the port area, we decided to take that and then, bus it back to the hotel later. So we've
got... the cruise ships come in here. So the Alaska cruises all take off from here. So sometimes you get to see those coming and going.
Now, I've been to, in Mobile, Alabama is a big port city, but you don't get gigantic cruise ships. Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest cruise ship I've ever seen.
Okay.
When we were there, and it just kept going. We were laughing because it honked its big old cruise ship horn.
Oh, yes.
Started moving, and then we ignored it for a while, and we're talking and eating, and then we look back, and it's still the ship going.
It's like
minutes went by,
like a starship scene in a movie, right? Where it just keeps flying overhead.
It just more and more ship kept going, and we're not used to that. That's what's so cool when you go to someplace so different like this. The scale of everything is so fun. And everything's different. I get a kick out of big cities and seeing how they handle things. And Vancouver is handled well, as far as I can tell.
Hopefully, If you keep walking along the waterfront, you end up in historic Gastown. It's one of the earliest settlements in Vancouver, and this is so funny. We got this exceedingly overhyped steam clock that every travel guide says you have to come and see. You went and saw it. You did the tourist thing. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, we were close enough, and we're like, you know what? It's going to go off here in a few minutes.
That's right.
And it's just so goofy, honk, silly.
You have the perfect expression
to
say what you thought of it.
I took a selfie with the proper face, and since everybody wants a selfie or a picture next to this silly clock, you can't get a picture of the clock by itself. I think I managed to, for a hot second, get a picture of the clock. But also I took pictures of the people getting pictures of the clock.
I think I cut most of those out, unfortunately, but
that's fine.
Yes, you did.
nothing special about those
the thing
pictures.
is, it's functional. It's there to serve a purpose. There's underground steam that has to be released, and so they decided, well, rather just having a vent that is constantly spewing out steam, they put a clock there. So that's all it
fun.
was.
And
Yeah.
it has its little chimes, and in place of like here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, on campus, there's a big clock tower, Denny chimes, a Campanile Carillon. How do you pronounce that? It's a bell tower, and it tells time, and you can hear it all over campus. And so this serves that purpose for a few block area. You can hear toot toot. You go, oh, top of the hour.
Yes, that's right.
Boop, boop. And we had some good food in Vancouver, I'll tell you that. Right there in Gastown, some fancy pants food. Although, listen, I'm critical. I'm a picky pants. I'm admittedly a foodie, and I will say at this particular restaurant, shoot, I forget the name. Butternut squash ravioli sounds great, but they oversauced it. It's like you need to let the ingredients talk and not just give me so much oil and sauce that I'm just tasting the sauce. So.
But hopefully you had a lot to eat when you were at Granville Island, because that is one of the key reasons for being at Granville Island is to take the food in.
I truly ate too much. I often say I regret that I have but one stomach to give.
Yes,
to my
exactly.
country, right? If I can only eat so much. And we got a transit picture. Okay, cool. Yeah, we actually enjoyed the
make
bus.
use of some of the public transit.
Yeah, we did. Oh, yeah. And thank you so much for helping there. The buses were fine. Like the buses were great. Nothing gross. And now he's showing a sunset picture right now.
Sure.
And if you're watching on YouTube, I recommend watching on YouTube if you're interested in this segment.
Yes, yeah.
Because
this is a slideshow. It's kind of hard to just put it all into words.
Like this wasn't me playing Mr. Photographer and waiting for the magical moment. This was me turning to my right as we're sitting on a bench going, holy crap. Now, I took a hot second to try to get the exposure right, but this is just how pretty it was.
You lucked out with the weather, man.
Really did. And just like and the crowds on this beach were impressive. Yeah. Again, right across from my hotel. I kind of wish I had that cool air right now. I'm a little warm in my office as I sit here.
I'm not mad about being where I am. So compared to you sent me some what your temperatures are this week in Alabama, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Right. So we have highs of 32, 34, and 35 over the next few days, and I sent an image of that forecast to Rob just to let him think about how he would survive, and that's why we all have air conditioners.
Yes.
That's why we have cars you can pre-cool from a distance.
Exactly.
So, again, everywhere you look, lovely in Vancouver. I mean, I just couldn't find too many gross spots. I was fascinated by the tides, frankly.
Yep.
And so I took pictures at low tide of all the stuff you don't see at high tide.
Indeed.
And talk about fortuitous timing. There were many times where we were taking long walks where we just happened to see the lowest tide, and one time where we just happened to see the highest tide, or within an hour or so.
It's very obvious where those lines are when you're looking at them.
Very obvious. So again, beautiful. If you like that sort of thing, if you like a seashore. And then we finally got to see Rob.
This is on the next day. We did meet up.
Yeah, and look how happy I am to see Rob.
Aren't we, though?
Now let me just tell
one
the
from
listeners,
you, one from me, selfies.
I want to tell the listeners that fortunately, Rob is exactly who you think he is. So when you listen to Rob on this podcast and you guess, I bet I know what he's like in person, he is. And he's a very nice guy and very fun to be with. So I was very happy to see Rob in real life and go, holy cow, it's Rob. He's not fake. He's not just an AI face on a screen. And of course, we took pictures of Rob's new vehicle because Rob has a very nice EV and I'm EV
it's centric. A Hyundai Ioniq 9, and it was kind of fun because even on the times when I was like loading up new parking apps and loading up new charging apps, that was actually of interest to Lee. So it wasn't like a horrible time waste. It was like, oh, it's actually kind of fun to see how we're like handling all of our charging.
Yeah, no, exactly. That is kind of funny because if somebody wasn't into that, they might be tapping their fingers waiting for you to plug in or to find a parking space, whereas I'm like, oh neat, let me see what you're doing.
Since I was driving Lee and Heather around, I figured, okay, we'll come out of downtown, we'll go to some of the farther away places where it makes sense to drive there as opposed to walk or transit there. So we went all the way out to the University of British Columbia, which is right out as far west on the Vancouver mainland as you can possibly get. So yeah, we did go to the Museum of Anthropology, which we didn't actually take any photos there because they don't really want photos inside, and I guess we neglected to take a photo outside. But right by there, they got a rose garden, which was sadly past the main bloom and then before the next bloom. So we had like little buds that were there, but it was a lovely smelling place. It was so nice.
That college campus. So I will brag about our University of Alabama campus. Yep. It is pretty. It's manicured. I have my criticisms of some architectural trends, trying to make everything look like the antebellum South. Let's move on from bricks and columns, please. But we have a lot of pretty stuff. And if somebody showed up in town and wanted to see the best parts of Tuscaloosa, I would take them to the university and I would take them to the river, and we'd see the prettier stuff we have to offer here. But yeah, the University of British Columbia is really cool. As you approach, it looks like you're just driving off into the woods.
Yep. And we only saw a tiny little section of it.
Yeah, like the tiny section we saw are just buildings nestled into woods. Yep. And Rob really loves the music hall there. And
it's called the Chan Center for the Performing Arts. And on their calendar, they didn't have anything listed because honestly, it would have been lovely to take in a performance there. But they had an event going on. So thankfully, the folks were very nice at the front door. They let us just come and peek in so I could let Leah and Heather see the concert hall that's inside there. I love going there any chance that I get.
Right. I understand why. And also, if you're into audio, it's a point of discussion to talk about it's set up. And so we have a music hall here too. Our music hall is very 80s looking almost. I can't explain it. It's pretty, and we have a huge pipe organ in our music hall that's grandiose. It's a lovely space, but for some reason the vibe is very 80s.
Okay.
That's when it was built, and of the time, at the time it was cool, but I think it probably needs a refurb one day or the next.
One thing I love in the Chan Center that I pointed out is it's got a tunable ceiling. It's got this whole structure that they can move up and down on the ceiling to tune the acoustics of the entire round concert hall space. And they'll also put on, like, when we talk about surround sound, they'll put on live performances where some of the performances will be arrayed around the entire auditorium to the sides and above and behind the audience members. So, you want surround sound in real life, you can get it there at the Chan Center.
I would love that. I've experienced something close to that in my life when I used to do a college radio show. We had live bands on the show, and we would literally spread the band out around us, arrayed around. That's the only way they would fit. So I'd have a drummer off almost behind me to my left, and then like percussion guitar players arrayed in front of me, a keyboardist over here in the corner. But I can only imagine that must be fantastic to have the instrument sounds coming from everywhere.
It's so good in there. So the idea was that we were going to visit my place, which is a little over an hour outside, especially from UBC. It'd probably be about an hour and 20 minutes. Going from the farthest west into through two other municipalities and then into Surrey, where I live. But along the way, we're going to visit the most popular beach, which is the Kitsilano Beach in Vancouver. So it was funny because you had quite the comment about the sand. We got our little showboat where nothing was going on, and the seats that were due to be replaced like 5 years ago and never have been, so they're looking a little shabby there. And we also have a saltwater pool that's in behind there, so it's kind of fun. They bring in the ocean water and filter it and warm it just a little bit, and then you have a saltwater pool in behind a little showboat. That
Kitsilano Beach stage and bleachers, it's giving old school Six Flags.
Yep.
Like 1970s Six Flags over Georgia would have little places that look like that, and women in petticoat things dancing or something.
You just get local little performances, a lot of like the dance studios and stuff. It's just like, it's a great place to just give experience, little local concerts and stuff. So it's a fun little spot.
So you can imagine if you're with an AV nerd, you're going to talk about venues.
That's right.
Places where music might happen.
There was a view right from Kitsilano Beach back across all the way up to Grouse Mountain where you can see the wind turbine that was up there, so it was easy to spot.
Right, and it's a nice way to keep track of where you are in town.
That's
once you've looked at a map ahead of time, you know where your hotel is in relation to the peninsula. You know where Grouse Mountain is. Kind of hard to get lost.
Yep. So I exposed them to rush hour traffic because there was really no choice about it in the matter. And so, you got a taste of, but just before we left Kids Beach, we got some more of our Canada geese, and the little goslings were out, and you had about at least 3 generations that were clearly delineated
right
amongst the geese there.
And the geese don't care, and you can get so close, which is, I guess that's always the case in a bigger city. The birds learn, and they get used to humans.
Our birds have no fear whatsoever, and just don't try to touch the goslings because you will get hissed and bit by the parents. There is no question about it.
I respect animals, man. I get it. They don't mess with their babies, and and by the way, that what we're coming up on soon is we're going to drive out to your place in your end of town. I will say it was funny because I kept looking at your navigation screen at the estimated arrival time, and it kept being more than an hour. Yes, and I'd look again. Right. We'd talk for a while. I'd look again, and it was still more than an hour.
We were starting at the beginning of rush hour, and rush hour just gets worse as you progress. So the time just keeps piling up. But we didn't actually go in. We didn't have time, but we did stop by the Museum of Vancouver. They got a famous sculpture outside the crab, so I had to had a quick picture of the crab with Lee and his wife, and then a shot going backwards. There I am in all my horrible glory.
Rob being all happy and being goofy. Horrible glory. What do you mean, man? Oh, and here's me. I took, again, EVs are fascinating to me. VinFast is a Vietnamese brand of electric car, and I've never seen one in person. And then I saw one that was a taxi, which is pretty rare to both see a VinFast and to see it as a taxi. So that's why that.
And this is just as we were driving by the Pacific National Exhibition grounds, the PNE grounds. So I got to look at our what used to be incredibly fun roller coaster, but they put too many safety straps on there now, so you don't actually literally come out of the seat when it goes over the crest anymore. So very disappointed. I skipped ahead, but that's okay. We're right here at the main event. We did go to a restaurant prior to this, which was a very nice restaurant. Actually, we can talk a little bit about that if you want to, but took him to a Japanese restaurant that I like very much, and but far outside of downtown Vancouver. And
Rob's very good at suggesting restaurants.
Well, if it happens to be the type of taste that I have, which it just so worked out that Lee and Heather like the exact same type of restaurants that I do, so it worked out swimmingly.
It sure seemed like it. So that Japanese restaurant, what was the name of it again?
That was Kosho Japanese.
Kosho Japanese. So it's one of those unassuming places in a shopping center, which often are the best because it's like a close-knit group of people running the place, and they're like super friendly. And I love a restaurant where when they detect that you're excited about the food, they get excited about it too, because they brought us extra samples of things.
Of course.
Like I had never had sake before.
Oh, well, that was crazy.
That was my first experience with sake, and it was just weird and different and wonderful. And then when the server found out, she's like, wait, let's try this other sake.
That's right.
Fortunately, I didn't have to drive.
That's right.
It didn't hit too hard. But it was fun, man. The flavors there at that place were great. Yes. Anyway, for those who aren't foodies, one thing everybody listening to this podcast surely can relate to is Rob's home theater. And I think we've all heard how he has shoved a lot of cool stuff into a small place.
Tiny
this
place.
Is a 1, maybe 2-person home theater. You can sit 3 across and everybody's got enough room.
Yeah, so I've got to do some explanation because I've just got my futon in there right now because my normal recliners, I actually something went wrong with the reclining plug. So I just have to replace a little plug. It's nothing major, but the reclining wasn't working, and they're not the most comfortable when we're sitting straight up. So I just threw my futons in there, and then people would be like, where the heck are your height speakers? Well, ever since that flood that I have, I actually did put my height speakers back up there. Using I did some like command strip, the super heavy duty command strip with the keyhole mount thingy. I put those up there, and one of them came down. Thankfully, nothing damaged. It was on the back, and it just landed on the carpet. I'm like, you know what? I've been extolling the virtues of Dolby Atmos height virtualization. I'm going to live by the words that I say. Thankfully, you and Heather did get a kick out of my subwoofers. They're really hard to spot. Really nestled in there, camouflaged.
I could have sworn I got a picture of Heather hugging one of the.
Oh gosh, that didn't show up in there. That might have been on her phone. So
might be on her phone, but like she's about the size of one of those subs. And when I say you put the theater on around you, you're wearing this theater. You slide in, you sit down. The futon was actually pretty comfortable. I'm using a crazy wide angle lens to take
be able to see it.
To try to get the idea.
I've told people that from my seats you can reach out and touch a sub, and I was not lying.
No, you can reach out and hug a sub. I am surprised that you've put as much emphasis on the sound quality in this room as you have, especially with the bass, given that you're in essentially an apartment. You're next to people.
Absolutely.
You got people above and below you.
Yep.
And so I am fascinated that hasn't been an issue and you've been able to enjoy, theater level sound.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, it's such a small space that you don't have to play it crazy, crazy loud to get a nice impact. And then, yeah, I mean, I've decoupled everything. Everything is on the, grandma bass risers, including the speakers, which are heavily towed in. If you can see them, they're all black and kind of the camouflage there, which is by design. They're not a visual distraction. And my center speaker is every bit as large as my front left and right. It's just a tower turned on its side, more or less. But yeah, no, everything's decoupled, and you don't have to play crazy loud, and it's a fully enclosed once I have those I keep skipping to that other photo. Rear doors closed, and so it hasn't been an issue. And then I picked this apartment where I live because like on the other side of that wall is the hallway, so it's not really a person on the other side of there, and it is a concrete building. And I've got like my bedroom to the right, I've got my laundry room to the left, so those parts aren't directly. So it's really just above and below, and everything's decoupled, and it works out.
That's fantastic. And I think it's hilarious and wonderful that you also selected where to live based a little bit on home theater. And I
very much did. There was a nicer apartment in a different building that I could have taken, but it didn't have as good a room for a home theater. So it just made the decision.
Every time when we were looking for a house many years ago, every place we went, I would step into one room or the other and go, where am I going to put the home theater? Right. And if it didn't have a good place for it, I'm like, I don't really like this house.
And you can attest that when I turned the lights out and with an OLED and the screen went full black, it's like, yep, those images are appearing out of absolute nothingness, which is what I wanted.
Yeah, the pictures that you will see if you watch the video or look at the pictures later are, the exposure is up so you can see the room.
Yes.
But the experience when you go in the room, especially when the lights go off, is you're in a void.
Yep.
Very well light controlled, very nice. And that screen is huge and close. And when I came home...
It's only 77, but, when you sit 6.5 feet from it, it looks big.
It looks huge. And it's got a, you feel like it's just looming in the void in front of you. It's a great size and distance, even though it's all packed so tightly together. Excuse me. When I came home, I remember thinking, man, my screen's kind of small.
Right?
Maybe I should turn the light off. Man, I kind of
maybe you should get some ribbon tweeters, just to get that vocal clarity.
Yeah, because once again, I'm in someone else's theater and I hear that vocal clarity. We're like, oh man, I can understand every word.
Yep. And no subtitles needed.
Yeah, my center channel, we talked about this a while back on the show, and I had to kind of put it off because I know what's going to happen. My tastes are going to be more expensive. I want to, like you say, cry once, buy once.
Yep.
It's not like I'm going to upgrade speakers a lot. The speakers I have at home are old, but yeah, this is now reminding me that there is a difference between a good center and a cheaper center. And something about how I'm set up, you might even convince me to go bigger screen and put the center channel on top of the TV stand.
Fun stuff.
I don't want to, but when you get in somebody else's good theater, like Rob has.
I skipped to the photos a couple times by accident, but yeah, your experience inside your hotel room was not quite the same. So.
Yeah, the hotel room had a serviceable television if you wanted to watch the news, but it's a cable box and a non-smart TV, a little TV, and oh my god,
Vizio nonetheless.
Now, at least it had a TV. I thought they would go full old school and
you
really
can even access the back of it if you want to plug something in. That's not every hotel does that.
I could have brought a stick and
that's right.
Some kind of stick and connected. But anyway, we didn't watch TV much in the room anyway. I was too tired and I looked at my phone and tablet. So the next thing we did was...
This would have been the next day, right?
The next day, it was library time. I'm married to a librarian, and when we go to a big city, we check out the big city library. And Vancouver has a beautiful one. What a unique shape and architectural style. And so Heather was tickled pink to see another big city library. And by the way,
that's not the library. This was a shot from just outside of the Vancouver Library.
Just outside,
Lee enjoys some interesting architecture, and certainly a bunch of cubes stacked haphazardly as a building is a fun time.
I love that building.
But looking back the other way, we can see the Vancouver Public Library and all its rounded and interesting architecture.
And I will say, my wife, the librarian, at least one time while we were in that library, she grabbed a book and put it in the right place. She could not help herself.
It was misfiled. They do need to be in the correct order, and good for her for doing that. If anybody's looking at
from a distance, like it's instinct for her. So I just walked up. Wait a minute. This goes here.
If anybody is looking at the architecture from this and going, God, that looks familiar. If you were an X-Files fan, they used the Vancouver Public Library exterior as the establishing shot whenever they went to the FBI headquarters in the X-Files. This is what they think the FBI headquarters looks like.
Yeah, it is not. The FBI headquarters is kind of ugly. So I understand why they use that. Somewhere in my collection of pictures, I have a picture of the FBI headquarters.
Okay.
And it's not interesting.
They still have a card filing system for some sections. It's 9 stories tall is the Vancouver Public Library. So we each floor looks quite similar. And the very first floor was completely under renovation. So there's no access to the actual first floor at the time. And we got a shot going down from, I think it was the 4th or 5th floor, just looking down at all the renovation that's going on down there.
Right. It's a bit of a fun house if you don't like heights, like my poor wife does not. And there's so many different angles where you're looking down at people and up at people, and it's a lovely structure. So yeah,
I stopped to do some emailing because I had some things to deal with.
Yeah, it's a picture from Rob suddenly doing business.
But up on the top of the Vancouver Public Library is a lovely little garden space that looks right out over BC Place Stadium with its fun crown-like architecture. So yeah, I had to stop and take a selfie up there on the top, on the roof of the VPL.
You recommended the roof of the library.
Yes.
It is beautiful up there. There's a little garden, and it smells great because of all the plant life up there. And it's just, here we got another beautiful, gorgeous day with fluffy clouds and gorgeous colors of these flowers. And somebody left a little model Pegasus for some reason on a bench. And I don't know, everything's just magically beautiful up there. And you've got all the cool different architectures, textures, and shapes and colors of the architecture, looking through arches at clouds and buildings and sunlights shining down.
I mean, what do you know? It does look like a photograph.
It does. I did all right for cell phone photography. I can concentrate.
And then we did come to Granville and Robson Street, the busiest intersection downtown by quite a margin. And I got another shot of the most complex of the trolley lines that go overhead in the city. We walked right down Robson Street. The VPL is on one end, and Robson Street in Vancouver is kind of like all the shopping, all the high end shopping is all along there. So it didn't go to too many places along the way, but took a nice little stroll and ended up at the Robson Square.
I am definitely not a high-end shopper, and fortunately my interests cross over with Rob, and so I can ask all these questions about the transit system and the electronics and stuff. and he can teach me things. It's very interesting. And again, I'm just fascinated by cities architecture and shapes and colors, and it was very pretty there.
So and got some shots here. This becomes an outdoor skating rink in the winter, so it's a nice area where lots of people come. Robson Square, the outdoor skating rink.
Yeah, we do not spend money where other people sometimes spend money. We don't go buy a lot of clothing or items. It's a struggle for me to buy a souvenir. I bought a mug, a cool little Canada $50 coffee mug. It didn't cost $50. It has a $50 bill printed on the mug.
Right.
It's a very pretty little mug, and I like coffee, so that's all I bought. So we try to spend our money where it counts, and I think we did good on spending money on this trip.
I think you did all right, because Vancouver is expensive, and you can go through money very, very quickly. We say that BC doesn't stand for British Columbia; it stands for bring cash. So you got to be a little bit mindful. But again, like time, there's more things we could have done. We could have gone into the Vancouver Art Gallery, but we just took a shot from outside in the square, and this is where all the protests happened. We didn't have a protest happening this day, but I
offered to start one.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like, I can go get on those steps and I can start.
The
venting.
Microsoft building is right there, so you can easily protest.
I could immediately start protesting activities by Microsoft if I wanted to. I could bring up anything. We did the classic Canadian Tim Hortons. Rob suggested it. You got to get the Timbits little donut holes and some other little custard pies, little tiny custard pies, and they were good. You got to do it.
It's perfectly. You can't spend several days in Canada and not visit a Tim Hortons at least once. So, got to experience a little bit of the rougher side of the city. I mean, Chinatown is very lovely between the hours of 10 and 4 when it is open.
They specifically say 10 and 4. That's when you visit.
But we arrived a little later than that, so pretty much everything was closed. So we did just see the gates and peeked through a gate at very little of the lovely Chinese garden. I mean, it's a gorgeous Chinese garden that they have in there. But that's
we didn't really get to I know inside. That if you go to Chinatown at a more normal time, you're going to get a slightly different experience. But this whole part of the visit was, Rob really wanted us to get the realistic view of Vancouver, and we do of other cities. So we did see some rough stuff.
That's right.
In this part of town, and that's okay.
We have literally some of the poorest people in all of Canada living like no exaggeration, 1 block from some of the richest people. And that's
true.
That's how it goes.
But there wasn't a point where I thought, walk faster, go back the other way. I never felt like, intimidated by the situation. I don't, some of those areas I wouldn't want to be at late at night.
That was it. And one of the original ideas when you were first planning was to stay not far from the rougher side of town because the prices were lower.
It wasn't a plan. It was just we showed you 3, 4, 5 Airbnb or hotel possibilities, and you very quickly eliminated the one closest to this area. So you're like, you don't want that one. Yeah, not that one.
But you did get to see the skinniest in the world.
Oh yeah, there's a little sign that just said the skinniest in the world, and I think they're referring to the building.
It's the skinniest commercial building. The building itself is slightly less than 6 feet from front to back, but it actually is a functioning commercial building with an insurance agency in there, and so it is the skinniest commercial building in the world.
I don't know why that made me laugh so hard, but just seeing a building and a sign that said the skinniest in the world, and not knowing what they were referring to. What is so skinny?
Then I was thinking, okay, we had a little bit of time to kill because I had originally thought we'd spend more time in Chinatown, but it wasn't really the nicest and everything was closed. So a little bit, we had a dinner reservation for that evening. This is the final evening that Lee and Heather were in Vancouver, so we had a dinner reservation. And so I thought, okay, we'll go over to the Olympic Village. That's on the other side. It's outside of downtown. It's across the bridge. The Olympic Village is a really nice space. You have a fantastic view of our science world, which normally doesn't look like this. It's been all done up for FIFA to look like a soccer ball. So it's got a completely unique look, but we had, by complete happenstance, I had no idea what was going on, a very fortuitous little visit to the Olympic Village, which turned out really nicely.
Fortuitous timing on our part. We got lucky to see things that normally we wouldn't get to see. And so I just kept shooting cool angles and pictures and seeing landscapes that I don't normally get to see, and that's very cool.
We still got all the flags up that was back from the Olympics, from 2010 Olympics, so all of those are still up there. We did look up, so for the 700 square foot apartments that are in the Olympic Village, which is where all the Olympic athletes stay, but then got converted to apartments. Those go for about 1.5 million Canadian dollars. Yeah. So, just to give you an idea of why we say bring cash. We had the dragon boaters out on the water, though.
We added it up, and I think our tickets were something like $1,200 because we did those late night tickets and had a complicated layover, but it was worth it. That was pretty cheap to get to Vancouver and back. $1,200, not bad. And I think we might have blown $2,500, $2,600 otherwise.
Yeah,
on the hotel and the food and everything, so I feel pretty good about that.
But yeah, it turned out there was a lovely little local farmers market with some live music that was going on in the Olympic Village, so it was the perfect place to come.
Right up our alley. Heather took off out ahead of us because she is just magically drawn to farmers markets. She disappeared into the distance, and so another magical, fortuitous. Rob just knew it was going to happen. Just he could feel it emotionally.
Didn't, but it worked out great.
Worked out so good, and we got like free food samples while we were there.
Yeah, which you didn't need because you're spoiling your appetite. But who can resist?
Kind of hard to spoil my appetite. I usually have a very big one. But once again, food-wise, when you're excited about food, other people get excited that you're excited about food.
That's right.
And even when I very specifically told the guy, I can't buy anything today because, we're leaving later. And he's still like, no, but still try this and see what you think. Right. And so we had some amazing samples of food at that farmer's market. And that was really fun.
And then the main food thing, because we did save the best for last.
Yeah, this restaurant. Tell me the name of it again.
This is Salmon and Bannock. Yeah, this is on Broadway. Right, right on Broadway in Vancouver, main part of the city that's outside of downtown. And this is indigenous owners and staff, and going with native food dishes, and so things that you really don't get anywhere else. These are not the common dishes, and Lee, being a foodie, wanted to experience some flavors and some things that he hasn't tried before. Right. And I thought, this is the place to come because it's my type of atmosphere. It's not dark, the music is not loud. Right. It's small, it's a cozy little place, but it's very comfortable to have a conversation, and the star is the food.
Yeah, see, I'm like you. I don't love places that are trying to be dark and luxurious and romantic, and I don't like that. I like happiness and light.
Yeah.
I like seeing what's going on and feeling like I'm awake. There's just something awful about darkness to me. So yeah, this place run by native people, and I was so excited to go here because I knew I would get flavors I had not had before.
Yep.
And when you're my age, it's pretty rare to get new flavors. Really, really new, like flavors that you don't have a description for.
Right.
That's what's really exciting. Like most time you get a new flavor, you're like, oh, that's an awful lot like XYZ.
Sure.
But digging into, I'm going to go straight to the star of the show on the appetizers at this restaurant. The venison pate and the cedar jelly with Gouda cheese on a bit of their magical homemade bread, toasted. Wow. My brain was like, we got nothing. We've got nothing. No notes. Don't know what to do with this. It was so. Now I've had venison before, of course, because I'm from Alabama and people hunt deer around here. And I've had venison fillet and I've had venison sausage and a few different types of ground venison. But this was a pate with little crunchy bits, and I've never had cedar jelly at all.
Yeah,
no comparison to anything. That was a new one. And so these appetizer plates, where you're getting what was it? Bison sausage,
bison and elk. Yeah,
there was a
salmon in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, there were homemade pickles. There was a candied salmon that I literally had to ask the server, "What am I tasting on here? Please help," because my brain was like, "Is there grapefruit?" I had nothing to compare it to in my brain, so I think the server seemed to enjoy discussing with us.
Absolutely, yes.
I don't know how many people look so giddy excited about appetizers like me, but
you'll never guess this, but Lee can be effusive and he can say some words and not in a super quiet voice. Total shock to everyone who's listened to AVRant, but yes.
Yeah, if you're near me, you're going to know I'm enjoying myself or I'm unhappy. No one is surprised. What's that guy talking about? So bone marrow was part of it.
From a bison.
Bison bone marrow. Now, fortunately, I'm the kind of guy that likes a steak and I want all the fat on that steak.
Yeah.
And so Heather's not quite as like meat hungry as...
This was her least favorite thing, but she gave it a good try.
She did. And it was up top of my list, high up on the list. So scoop some of that bone marrow out on some of their biscuity bread. And then we finally had an entree at this restaurant. And I'll stop talking about this restaurant, but this was the best restaurant. We saved the best for last.
I like to give them a shout out because they deserve it. And yeah, it's like, it's not cheap, but it's not overpriced, I don't think, at all. So yeah, right. I like to give them a shout out. Salmon and Bannock, come check them out if you're in Vancouver.
Salmon and Bannock, and my poor brain kept trying to say hammock.
Yes.
Salmon and Bannock. The only thing I didn't like, the only criticism I had is both here and somewhere else where we had some salmon, the salmon was overcooked for me.
Yep.
For me. Now, I don't know if that's a regulation or just cultural.
Yep, because we don't really allow restaurants to serve things rare. It's I mean, you can get a steak rare.
Interesting.
But
just a steak.
Anything where the surfaces have the potential of being exposed, we require them to be cooked through. So that is a surprise to many people. And please never blame our Canadian restaurants, because that is not on them. They would cook it to your preferred liking if they were allowed to, but our regulations say nope, we prioritize safety over everything. So
I got you. When I cook salmon at home, it's what I would call medium.
Yeah,
it's like just barely done in the middle, right? But crispy on the skin and so forth. So that was my only criticism, but that's just not their fault. Everything else was just spectacular. And so then after that restaurant, I'm bleary from delicious food and being excited about food. And then we got to do one more cool, beautiful thing.
We had a little time before you really needed to go to the airport. So again, doors are closed on all the attractions, but we did go up to the Queen Elizabeth Park. These photos, it was darker than this to the human eye, but our modern day cameras are like, no, it's always sunlight if there's any light. But yeah, we were up at the top of Queen Elizabeth Park. We didn't get to see like all of the sunken garden and everything that was down below because we just didn't have time for that, but we had enough time to just come and visit and see something a little bit clearly. And yeah, Lee, like the parallax effect that you could get just standing there in real life parallax.
Amazing. And just like the picture you could take where you have otherworldly alien plants. When I go far away, one of the things I do is I'm staring at the trees and the plants that are different. Like when I went to Hawaii, we had friends driving us around. I actually made our friend pull over so I could touch a tree that looked weird. And so all these different native plants, just things that we don't have here. Every angle was beautiful.
Queen Elizabeth Park is a gorgeous park. You could spend all afternoon and evening there and just chill out. And I think that was one of the things, right? Like you were just saying, like the vibe in general, because that's kind of what I wanted to ask you, right? It's like, overall, Vancouver's a pretty chill place, I think.
I think so. Yes. You get less, I don't want to say aggressive, because not every place in America is aggressive, but there's much more tension, energy in American cities than Vancouver, I would say. Just a more, because I'm used to the South. So I'm thinking about places like New Orleans, Atlanta, Nashville that are near me.
Yeah.
And the downtown city vibe is just, I don't know, just more
like it's hard to put a finger on, but you can feel a difference when you go to places. So.
You feel it. Whereas in Vancouver, everybody felt a bit more relaxed. It's just not that everybody was just laying around chill doing nothing, right?
No.
But just the vibe. I'm talking about the vibe. Good vibe in Vancouver. And so then, yes, Rob was kind enough to take us to the airport late in the evening. So Rob was the reason we didn't have to do complicated, like store the luggage somewhere while we did other stuff.
It was easy enough to just leave it in my rather spacious vehicle when there's only 3 passengers. So.
Right. Knowing that Rob could drive us around was wonderful. And I thank you again, Rob.
You're most welcome. My pleasure.
That made us able to take advantage of every moment. Yeah. So going to the airport late, just a few hours before the flight was supposed to leave was nice. And I've only done one other red eye in my life, and it was years ago when I was younger. And I don't know if the stress of an overnight red eye did it, or I literally just got near somebody with a virus. But by the time I got home, I started feeling crappy. And
I've never heard of anybody who doesn't get sick when they go on vacation, unfortunately. So
and it got me, man. It got me. The next day, it just hit like a ton of bricks. And just the overnight flight, I mean, nothing was really wrong with it, but it's like I also thought, I could have sworn in the past I've been able to lay my head down on the tray in front of me. And I think they've made things smaller now.
It's just too squished together.
And you can't quite do it. But there's Heather all sleepy, staring out at the sunrise as we approach.
It's the perfect denouement to everything that went on. Yeah.
And I can see it on her face because I know her face that poor baby's tired right there. But
fair enough. No,
lovely as she's just so sleepy, and here comes the sun too soon for us and no sleep. And I love that picture.
Yeah, no, you really only had 5 days, but I think you packed a lot in there, and yet there is more to do if you ever come back. So
I can find really tons more to do back there. We with all kinds of places we didn't get off to, and I feel like other places needed more time, and you and us could do more things. It would be great.
Sure could.
So we could go see a movie next time. I just didn't feel like trying to fit that in this time. We could go to the real, because you kept touting the big IMAX in Vancouver that's real film. IMAX.
Yeah, well, that's actually like way out in Langley, even farther than we drove.
Right.
It's like even farther out, but it's one of the very few left in the world that can actually still do the physical film IMAX. There's really not that many, but we have one. So that's I don't know, maybe try to set up a tour and actually see the projector and stuff would be a lot of fun, I think.
So this was exciting for me to get to meet Rob in person, because I've been involved in this podcast as Mr. Backup, break glass for podcast host. I've always been, the backup since the end of 2013.
You looked it up. Good, because I wouldn't be able to pick the date.
The end of 2013 was when Liz and I were given the opportunity to do like the end of year episode. So we recorded that ahead of time so that everybody could have Christmas, New Year's Eve off.
Right.
And it's been that long. And so since then, we've been around Tom in person twice. And that's been great to meet him in person. He is within driving distance. I can get in the car and make it to Tampa from here.
Right.
Well, that's a lot easier. But getting to see Rob was cool, and that took quite a journey. So here's what I'm suggesting to Rob at some point in the future. I really think this would be fun, is since we can get to Tampa, if you have a vacation time and want to do an American vacation thing, let's all go to Tampa and record an in-person podcast. We can go somewhere cool and have it be like one of those, we're in a cool spot and a little bit of ambient noise, and let's record an in-person 3-person
It would
podcast.
be cool. I'm not making any promises that it's going to happen.
I'm just saying,
I will promise if it does happen, it will not be in the summer, because that would end up being a very short podcast as far as Rob H's participation. So
I know that's where my one advantage over other human beings physically is that I can kind of tolerate heat. I grew up here in like the most humid part of Alabama, because you would think down at the coast would be the most humid, but southwest of Tuscaloosa is very swampy.
Okay.
It's just very low lying and lots of wetness, and the prevailing winds come from there through here. And
Gotcha.
so if you grow up in this area, everywhere else feels like it doesn't have air. Like we went to Los Angeles and we're like, they just don't have atmosphere here. How am I breathing? And I felt a little bit like that in Vancouver. Like, it's like somebody just turned on the air conditioner. What you call humid doesn't register with me, because when I say humid, I'm thinking about hot humid. Right? So I'm thinking about stifling blanket air.
Right.
The kind of air that sits on your face. Like, you just can't, you have to cut through it, and it's just made of sweat, and you're breathing sweat. Like, that's humidity. But humidity at a coast in a cool temperature doesn't feel humid to me.
Not
I mean,
like
my
that,
hair might curl up, but
it's
doesn't
definitely
feel
different from like the, dry desert type of landscape though. So it's like, it is correct to call it humid, but yes, it is a different feeling on the skin. No question. Yeah. Right. The last one, it was really fun, because I didn't prompt you to say it at all or whatever, but one of the days when we didn't meet up early on, like you noticed the difference just in the length of the day, just coming farther north.
Yeah, just from that, and here we approach the longest day, as that's coming close. So yeah, that first couple of evenings, afternoons, we're like, how old are we again? We're so tired. And what time is it?
Well, I mean, for you, it was 2 a.m. That's what your body is telling you. It's only midnight here, but
or just the sunset hadn't even happened yet.
Yeah,
and we're tired, and we're looking down and going, oh, because at home it's like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10:30, 11. Yeah, it's like 8:39.
It's dark at home, and the sun's still up. People are, skateboarding by, and the dogs are having a good time. Like, everybody's having a lovely afternoon.
But the day actually is longer. Like, there's more sunlight hours just being farther north. So
yeah, I think the sunset was about 9 p.m. local?
Yeah.
Right about now, and gets even later.
About 8:45, yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I enjoyed everything about it, except for the part where I hurt myself coming off that bike.
Yeah, God. And it had to happen on the first day too, but...
Right. If it weren't for that, I think I would have had a tad bit more stamina for more activity. And then I have travel anxiety that has gotten worse as I've gotten older. And I think I did okay on this trip. I'll have to ask Heather.
Yeah.
Well, Heather sees me whether or not I'm dissolving at the end of the day and how well I get up in the morning. So that you'd have to ask her whether I was handling that okay. But I didn't
Seemed
freak
all right.
out. Didn't freak out. Did pretty
well,
good.
I am so happy that the weather cooperated, because that was my number one worry. Because I mean, look, the whole draw of Vancouver is the mix of outdoor activities. Like, it's not as though you couldn't have been indoors and out of the weather if you needed to. There's attractions to see, but it's like the number one thing you want to do when you're in Vancouver is enjoy the outdoor stuff. That's the whole point, is the mixture of nature and city together. That is not unique in the world, but it's also not the most common thing in the world. And that's like the absolute and like, if everything's gray and rainy and you don't get the views of the mountains and you don't get the clear sky, it's like it's not nearly as pretty and impressive. So I'm so happy that worked out. You took the nice weather with you. Instantly started raining once you left, but that's okay. That's how it should go.
We've done that before many years ago when we one of our international trips, we went to England, and our friend's mom was commenting on how lucky we got.
Yeah,
we were there for several days, and it did not rain in England, and apparently as we were leaving, it started raining, and so I was like, "Yes, the England's crying because we're leaving." So Vancouver misses us.
You heard it, folks. You should invite Lee to your place if you want some nice weather for like a week. It's not going to stay forever, but that's apparently the ticket.
We bring the sunshine, baby. We'll do it. You got to listen to me talk, but otherwise, I bring good weather.
Well, my goodness, if folks have stuck around all the way to this, I mean, this isn't the normal thing, but it made all the sense. Lee was here, and it's fresh in our minds, and we enjoy reminiscing about it a little bit, and we got that little tease in there. Just a couple of photos of Rob's Theater if you need to see it.
Very unique in-person crossover of people who don't get to see each other. That's
exactly
one of my favorite things. Is like getting to see Rob in person was really cool.
And absolute irony of the fact that the two regular hosts of the podcast these days, Tom and Rob, have never met in person. So I've met Lee before I've met Tom.
One day it's bound to happen.
It will definitely happen one day.
And I will say, so now that I've met both of you, You are very much you in person. I think I'm this in person, right?
There was no adjustment period whatsoever. We just slid right in exactly as though we're talking across a video chat. There was no difference and no adjustment period.
Right, so I'm this. You don't get a surprise. Tom, I will say, on the podcast, Tom plays the rant part of AVRant, right?
Yep.
In person, although he can sometimes sound like Mr. Grumpy, it's nonsense. He's a sweet guy.
He was saying he's nicer than I am.
Dude, he was very generous with the times we were around him, and fun to be with. And no, he's a great sense of humor. And so don't let his gruff, personality sometimes, when he's just groaning about stupid stuff on the podcast, he's right. I'd groan about it too, but he's a cool guy. But yeah, Rob is Rob. You get Rob in person.
There you go. Well, thank you so much to everybody for listening. If you were just using the timestamps, I don't blame you one bit, because we didn't stay absolutely home theater focused on this one, but hopefully, at this point, a lot of people are here to just listen to our personalities more than they are for the actual home theater things. But the common interest brings us together, so it's been a lot of fun. So we'll draw this massively long episode to a close at this point. It wasn't totally the plan, but Lee, thank you for sticking around the entire time.
You're welcome. Tom's gonna love the length of the episode.
He never listens back anyway, so it makes no difference. It doesn't matter. But I might run out of StreamYard storage space at some point if we don't stop one day. So I'll quickly go back up here and thank our listeners of the week, because we want to make sure we do that. Folks who support the podcast in some way, if you want to give a one-time donation to our podcast, just come to our website, avrant.com, and you can click on the Support AVRant link. That'll take you to PayPal to do a one-time donation that way. Or if you want to do a recurring donation, come to patreon.com/AVRantPodcast, where you can sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. And we thank our 121 patrons who have been holding strong over there. And then folks who just sent in notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going through everything that's going on: Jason, Jairus, Joe, and Sasi this week. Thank you so much for those. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. If you'd like to get your home theater and AV questions answered on this here podcast, just email them to us. question@avrant.com is absolutely the best way to get in touch with us. And I'll just mention one more time right here at the end, if you'd like a chance for your name to be randomly drawn to win a Sofabaton U3 remote, we're going to have at least one of those to give away. Yep, where's my review model here? There he is. If you'd like to win one of these, just email us. It's question@avrant.com. The email address does not change. Put in your subject line, put in the body of the email that you'd like to enter one entry per person, and in, 3 weeks, something along those lines, we'll draw at least one name and have a Sofabaton U3 sent to that person.
There you go.
All right. So I think that's it. We're drawing it to a close. I will say, on behalf of Tom Andre, this has been AVRant. My name is Rob H.
And I'm Lee Overstreet. Now go out and travel and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.